Okay. We are live. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our STEM Equalizer conference. Thank you for joining us. We will be expecting our speakers to come on board. As we do so, please come one and please come all. Thank you for joining us. I might have to kick off because I have received word that our Honorable Commissioner is in a meeting, but we'll still kick off and I might have to go and then the rest of our speaker lineups and then she'll join us when she'll be able to join us. So thank you for joining us. Okay, if you are online with us, just send a message and let me know that you are on there so that I can acknowledge that you are on. I can see that we have some viewers already. Welcome and thank you. Okay, we have people already saying that they want to join us, so I'm going to send them links right now. And let's see. Technology, huh? It is something. No. Okay. Okay, I just got word that our Honorable Commissioner wants to join us, so I'm sending her link to join us. And let me get that. Oh my goodness, technology, don't you love it? Ah, God. There we go. Okay, so I sent it to her and wonderful. Welcome, Damilola. Welcome, Olubimi. Thank you for sending in your comments from Facebook and YouTube. See, that's fantastic because at least that tells me that we are connecting on both of those channels. So fantastic. I just got word that she's trying to connect. So any minute now she'll join us. And then once she joins us, she will kick off. Hi, Laurie, all the way from Augusta, Georgia. Wow, that's wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. This is awesome. I hope I'm audible. I should have tested that too. Okay, while we're waiting for her to join us, let's make sure that all our other technical components are working. Right? So, get started. Okay, yes, you hear me. Fantastic. Thank you, Lori. I needed that confirmation. Thank you. Oh, Lord. What a day. Okay. I can't wait to hear you tomorrow, Lori. I know it's going to be fantastic. Okay. Good. We're good to go. Okay, so we're good to go. While we're waiting for her, beautiful. Thank you. Thank you, Adedamola. No, Ademola, sorry. Confusing both names. Fantastic. Okay, she's joined us. So let's go ahead at the stream. Thank you. She's on. Yes. And her audio, let's get her audio. Why is her audio not on? Your audio is not on. Your audio is not on.
I'm not talking
okay,
yet.
there you go. Okay, good. It's on. Yes. Welcome. Good afternoon, ma. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Everyone, welcome our Honorable Commissioner. She's joined our broadcast stream. We have people all the way from Canada and Georgia, from all over the world. Fantastic. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to hand over to her. She's going to be kicking us off with some welcome comments. And
Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very happy to be part of this program. I greet the convener especially. You've put in a great deal of effort into introducing STEM as a concept in Nigeria and STEM. And I know how much work you put into this as well. I say congratulations and well done. I am happy that there's a considerable presence here so that people will see how we can actually incorporate, integrate STEM into what we are doing. For me as a person, I've never seen STEM as subjects. Of course, it means science, technology, engineering, math. I know that, but I've always seen that it's something that shows the interrelatedness, the interconnectedness, the singularity of life. There's nowhere in life called math, nowhere in life called science, nowhere in life called technology. But I know that when we weave all these things together, we can use all these different aspects of learning to come up with great solutions. And we are hoping that today, by the time you are done, you would have come up with really great and interesting discussion. I don't want to take too much of your time. I want to do more listening, so I'll be on throughout listening to what is going on. Thank you very much for inviting me once again, and have a good day.
thank you, ma. Okay. Okay, so she's kicked us off. A really wonderful start. I love how she brought up the idea, or actually, I should say, made sure to introduce the whole concept and the idea of the interconnectedness of all those different subjects. I remember I went for a program about 3 years ago, and when I was trying to explain to this person what STEM was, and the person said, "Isn't that what we already teach in science?" So I want us to understand that all we're doing is making that connection between what already happens in the real world and the way we're teaching in the classroom, bringing them together. That's what we're just doing right now. So I am not seeing our next speaker yet. In the meantime, I believe I will go ahead and start. Well, it's not yet her time, so we can have a conversation right now because she's actually on time. So we can go ahead and keep having a conversation. So when I was looking at STEM, when I first started this journey myself, I remember what really brought it home for me was being a math teacher and wondering why, when we are teaching, I'm just going to give an example. When I was teaching area, I remember I was teaching what we call middle school in the States, which is our junior secondary here in Nigeria. I was wondering why, when we are teaching area, when we're teaching perimeter, there was no connection to what happens in the real world. And that really was a huge disconnect for me because I remember it was the same too when I was in school too, elementary and junior secondary and senior secondary school. It was this huge disconnect. And I was asking myself, why is it that we don't teach it exactly how it is in the real world? And I remember I had this peer coach who encouraged me, and I'm really glad for her lessons, the lessons that I learned from her, to say, you know what, go bring the materials that you use in the house. Whenever you're thinking of perimeter, whenever you're thinking of area, bring it to your classroom and use it to explain these concepts to your students, the way you understand it, the way it makes sense to you. And in teaching area, what I ended up doing, because I hope we still remember our definition of area and what area really is in mathematics. Area is just the space contained in an object. And what I ended up doing was teaching them about square footage, teaching them about if I was trying to carpet my living room, how much carpet would I need? If I was trying to put furniture into the living room, how much furniture would I need? You see, immediately I use real world examples like that. Immediately, there was a huge connect, a huge turn on for my students. And I remember bringing in tape measures. And to this day, I still have my tape measures. Okay, they're not around me now. I still have my tape measures. I don't have one or two or three. I have about 10 or 15 of them that I carry around with me whenever I am talking about concepts like this. And it's so important that there's that connection, not just teaching them formulas, because a lot of people, if I'm going to mention area, the first thing that comes to their mind is, good, our next speaker is on, I'm going to have her come on soon. Yes. The next thing that comes to their mind immediately I mention area is length times width. That's fantastic. But what about the applications? What about bringing those concepts home? So I'm going to welcome our next speaker. She's amazing. She's someone who too has applied a lot of her knowledge in various ways and is doing great stuff. Let me welcome her in. Don't you just love technology? Hello, Auntie. Good afternoon, Ma. Okay, there she is. Good afternoon, Ma. Okay, she's coming on. I think she's still setting up. Maybe we should give her a couple of minutes while she's setting up. So,
Hello.
yes, I was saying hello. Can you hear us?
And
Good afternoon, Ma. Can you hear us? Wow.
yes, I can.
Okay, fantastic.
Can you hear me?
So I can hear you very well. You know, we have our network challenges here, but I hope our people in, because we have people all the way from Canada, Georgia, from the States, and I know my aunt from Belgium is also going to be signing in later. So we have people from all over the place. I hope they all remember that we have network challenges here. But yes, we can hear you. Welcome, Ma.
Well, if they've never lived in Nigeria, then they must have a pretty good idea, mustn't they? Thank you very much. I'm wondering, I'm not very familiar with this platform. Am I able to share my screen, or must I just,
Okay,
I'm just
let
speak?
me see. Yes, you can share your screen. On the bottom, you
Is
see
it
where it says,
possible?
it's possible. You see where it says share screen. You should be able to see it.
It is.
Yes,
So
there you go.
are you going to give
Okay,
me?
so I'm sorry,
It
Ma, what did you
says
say?
share screen. Yeah.
Yes, you should be able to because you are also a host. So yes.
Okay, so I'm going to try and do that now. Let's just fingers and toes all crossed. Hope.
You'll be fine.
I'm
Okay.
trying to share my screen now.
It's
Let's see
not
what it's
letting you
worth. Let
still.
me try and do that.
Try and see how it's
Yeah,
right there on the bottom. You see mute,
really,
stop
the link
cam.
is really.
Can you
Um,
see it? On the bottom it says
yes,
mute.
I've seen all those. I've clicked on share screen. I've
Okay. Wow. You must have network issues. Okay. Let's see. I think we're having bandwidth issues. Mm-mm-mm-mm. Let's see what's going on. Should be working. Hello, Ma. Can you hear me? Wow. I think we are having some technical issues. Just hang on, guys. And let's see. Okay, so we're audible. Okay. She's trying to share her screen. Okay, she had to go. While we're waiting for her, she's having some technical difficulties with sharing. Let's continue our conversation. I'm sure she's going to come back on. So I was talking to you about area and applications of math, my peer coach, and what we ended up doing with area. The same goes with science too. When we teach science, a lot of times we just teach it as a silo, a subject on its own. And then we forget that math actually is interconnected in so many different ways in science. So I'm hoping that by the end of today and tomorrow, will be able to see how interconnected these subjects are across the board. Even this platform that we're using now, it wouldn't be possible without, I'm still looking out for her, it wouldn't be possible without the interconnection of mathematicians and scientists coming together. I was just watching, I think it was a Netflix documentary on robots, and just watching that evolution of how everything came to be, the chips, how they've just gotten smaller and smaller is amazing. When you watch that, you cannot help but marvel about the beauty of the human mind and the capabilities that we have. So that's why we need to stop teaching the dry formats that we've been teaching in and start teaching more about. All right. Yeah, she is trying to get on. I'm sure she'll try and get back on. Just give me 1 minute. Let me try and call her and see what's going on. We're having network issues, oh William. Can you believe that? One of the aunties, she came on, she was trying to share her screen, wasn't allowing her. I didn't want Zoom, but Zoom is so much easier. That's the problem. I wanted us to be able to stream on various platforms. Eh? But it's YouTube and Facebook. That's why I like it. Hello, auntie. It froze up. Okay, so you're not going to share the screen. Oh wow, it must be network issues. Okay, so I'll wait for you to come on. I'm sorry. No, 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 it's okay, auntie. What we are dealing with here. Sorry. Okay. Okay, she's joining us. She said she had some network issues, so she'll be coming back. Unfortunately, she couldn't share her screen because of her network issues. Okay, fantastic. Oh, yes, very nice. Thank you, Laurie. That's a great idea. So while you're waiting, you can share where you're coming in from. Laurie is telling that she's in the States. I know Auntie Otujo also shared that she is in Canada. She's a comrade and she's a fierce educator here in Nigeria. Okay, we have Mr. Lubemi coming in from the UK. Fantastic. So we have people. So let me let her in so that she can join us. And oh wow, she needs to connect her mic and cam, he says. So we have to wait for that. She's not able to do that. Okay, so while she's doing that, okay, so we have Toyin, she's in Nigeria. All right, who else? I know Auntie Tujo says she's in Canada. Any other Canadians? Anybody else from the States? Nigerians, what states are you in? Okay. Yes, Pelumi, you are in Lagos. Ayodeju says he's in Lagos. Oh, is that it? Yeah, it's a he. You're in Lagos. Fantastic. I'm sure we have people from other areas in Nigeria. Lagos too. Okay, we have lots of Lagosians. Okay, fantastic. Auntie is back. Let's get her back on. Great.
Well,
wow, I like that, Auntie. Look at how innovative that is. You turned it.
Well,
fantastic.
What does one do but just cope with life in Nigeria, you know?
Yes.
That's the spirit. We're just going to have to cope with with what we have on ground. Yes. So it seems like you can. How well can you see the screen now? Can you?
Yes, we can. I'm going to make you solo so that everybody can see you alone. It's supposed to be you solo. Why is it not letting her be solo? I want her to be solo.
Well, maybe you must just make me on solo.
Okay, bingo. I've made you solo. There you go.
Okay, there you go.
We can see you.
Okay. So, can you see the whole screen, or just can you see the presenter view, or just
yes, we can.
Portion of the
we can see your screen. We can see how the COVID-19.
How the COVID-19 pandemic. Okay, great. Okay, fantastic. So I'll just talk us through. Well, what I prefer to talk about is how the COVID-19 pandemic has underscored the importance of STEM education. And shout out to everybody across the world. My name is Ibiemi, and I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to be sharing. I'm glad to be part of this. So I'll just take us very quickly through the outline. I'm going to start with an intro. We'll look at some global tech statistics just to sort of like lay a foundation. And then I'll go on to part one, which talks about what STEM education is. I imagine a lot of us know, but indeed, I'm sure that there's some in our midst that you know, would like to have a bit more information about it, okay? Then part two, we'll look at the future of work in Nigeria and the importance of STEM education to us as a people, as Nigerians. And then in part three, we'll look at the fallouts of the pandemic and how these have underscored the relevance or the importance of STEM education. Okay, so just a number of statistics that I always find fascinating because each time I have to represent it and I update it, the growth or the change is astounding. We know that what really colors the landscape really of the 21st century is change. Now, over 4.6 billion use the internet. That's close to 60% of the world's population. And we have about 7 billion devices connected to the internet. So it really is a global village. And we have more than 3.5 billion searches per day on Google alone. Of course, there are other search engines. Now, Facebook has more than 2.6 billion active users, and they have an average of 338 friends each. I doubt if there's anybody that has real friends numbering that, numbering like that. So if, for instance, Mark Zuckerberg was a president, he'd be the president of the largest country in the world. Now, the fifth thing is that the amount of technical information actually doubles every 2 years. But I found out that it's no longer even 2 years. It's like it doubles every 18 months. So if a student starts a 4-year degree, this means that less than halfway through what they've learned, in the first half is already obsolete by the time they enter their third year. So literally, we're preparing students for jobs that don't quite yet exist, that will use technologies that haven't been invented, and in order to solve problems that we're not even yet aware of. So it is a daunting task, but how do we go about it? It's through a STEM curriculum. So I'll just take us straight into the part one, which is just a bit of a very brief expose, so to speak, on STEM education, what it is, and why we do need it. So what is STEM? Of course, we know it's an acronym for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And a curriculum that is STEM-based educates students in these 4 disciplines, but not individually. It does so in an integrated interdisciplinary approach. And, it provides hands-on, minds-on lessons, while it provides them with real-life situations to learn from. So it's really an integrated approach, and a lot of the work done is project-based. And in the process of it, the children pick up a lot of marvelous skills that they need to survive and thrive in the 21st century. And some of these skills include problem solving, creativity, critical analysis, teamwork, collaboration, independent thinking, initiative, communication, digital literacy. These are, in other words, these are referred to as 21st century skills. And over and above all that, they also develop a healthy curiosity and a lifelong love of learning, which really is the bedrock of thriving and surviving and thriving in the 21st century. You must just know how to learn. You must have what's called metacognition skills. Being able to learn how to learn, and at the same time how to unlearn. Okay, so I have here a quote on my slide that says, why STEM education? Indeed, why? In the 21st century, science and technological innovations, they become increasingly important, as we face the benefits and challenges of both globalization and a knowledge-based economy. in order to succeed in this new information-based and highly technological society, students need to develop their capabilities in STEM, to levels much beyond what was considered acceptable in the past, to levels much beyond what we have in existence in a sizable proportion, close to 100% of schools here. There are very, very few schools that really offer a true STEM curriculum. We know that the 21st century is indeed characterized by globalization. Wuhan has proved that to us beyond reasonable doubt, hasn't it? And a knowledge-based economy. For students not only to thrive, but, survive in this environment of rapid, exponential technological changes, they need to develop the STEM capabilities well beyond what we currently provide in our environment, well beyond. It's unfortunate, but we're really falling short on this, okay? Now, we're still looking at why STEM education. A STEM-based education is important because, in summary, the global economy is changing, and it is changing at a dizzying pace. It's not waiting for anybody at all. If we do not get our children on, equipped for the world stage, we're setting them up for a lifetime of disadvantage. And then the continual advances in technology, they change the way students learn and connect and interact every day. The skills that they develop through STEM provide them with the foundation to succeed in school and well beyond, far beyond school, okay? Life, work-life skills. Now, still on why STEM education. Employer demand for STEM qualifications and skills is very high and will continue. It will only increase. STEM empowers individuals with skills to succeed and adapt to this changing world. If you look at that graph there, the demand for for STEM skills is growing much faster for the demand for regular skills. Today's students, they're going to solve the problems that were created by their parents' generation. And, just to paraphrase Einstein, you cannot solve problems with the same level of thinking with which you created them. So we really have a need to do what is right by our children and give them skills that they need to solve the problems that they're going to face, which, incidentally were caused by our own generation. Okay, now, Tola, am I good? Are we together? Hello? It seems like I've been talking to myself. Hello? Hello?
Can you hear me? Oh, Lord.
Let me just see what they...
I'm still here.
Hello,
Yeah, I'm
Tola.
here. We're still good.
Are we together? Okay,
We're
because
together. You're
I
still
couldn't hear
good.
you, so I wasn't sure. I wasn't
Okay,
sure
yeah, I
if
shut off my mic. I shut off my mic so that we
okay.
could
So
just focus on you.
I
Yes.
felt sort of like very much alone.
No, 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 you're not alone.
Now,
You're not alone.
okay, no, I'm not. Thank you. So, okay, good. I'm trying to fit it in get a screen full, but
Beautiful.
I'm
I
getting
see.
quite a
It's
bit of
perfect.
your, okay,
You
good,
are
good.
okay. So let me go
Okay,
off. Let me go off again.
so okay, good. So let me just fire on. So we've already reached the part 2, which is the future of work in Nigeria and the importance of STEM education to us. Now, there's a very interesting report I came across a short while back, and it's been very useful in working on my presentation. It's called the Future of Work Report, and it's an initiative of a non-profit called Passion Incubator. It's a Nigerian organization, and it highlights the workplace disruptions that are likely to arise due to several global trends that are underway in Nigeria. Because we tend to be a bit like the ostrich, saw danger coming and buried its head, thinking, well, if I don't see it, then it probably doesn't see me. But it's like we're thinking that all these changes are far away from us. No, we've said it's a global community, and whatever changes are happening out there, even if they don't reach us immediately, they're going to reach us, and they're already reaching us. And especially now with the way COVID has proved to us that the world is one huge village. So we cannot sit back and think that, okay, it'll take a while, blah, blah, blah. We can afford to move slowly. No, we have to move fast for the sake of our children. You know, there's cloud computing, exponential growth in computer processing power, advances in AI, and other emerging technologies. These things are all expected to bring about transformations in workplace efficiency, boost productivity, drive convenience and lifestyle improvements, and foster emergence of new occupations right here in Nigeria, right here with us. Now, these emerging technologies are expected to alter, according to the report, the kind of work that is available to Nigerians, the nature of existing occupations, and the way in which employers will structure the use of human and other resources. Now, the report also establishes the urgent need for governments, employers, and educational institutions to close the skill gaps, and prepare the Nigerian workforce for the future of work. And those skill gaps are mainly STEM skill gaps. We talked about the skills. There's a huge gap between what is required in the workplace, even here in Nigeria, and what is available amongst our youth. Well, before the report was, the report was written before the advent of the pandemic, and it's almost turned out to be a prophecy. The future that it predicted is here already. It really is here. So, this takes us to part 3, which is actually the lengthiest part of my presentation, and it's a fallout of the COVID-19 pandemic and how these have underscored the relevance of STEM education. So, what are the consequences of the pandemic so far? Crisis in healthcare, leading to an economic crisis, and then a crisis in education. But I called it teaching and learning because it's not just formal educational institutions, but also, all the other ways and means in which people, have been reaching out and learning and teaching and learning. So those are the 3 areas that I'm going to focus on. Now, the health crisis has required these responses. We've had to look for ways. The healthcare communities have had to look for ways to slow down the spread of the virus, ways to take care of the sick, to protect frontline workers, finding a cure for the disease, and then creating prophylactic drugs such as vaccines. So that's been the focus of the health community regarding the crisis. Well, the economic crisis is also multi-pronged, but I will not focus too much on this. But we've had, for me, since it's really a youth-centric issue that we're talking about, the main problem is rising unemployment. People are losing their jobs. All the forms of entrepreneurial endeavors that they had, those are all drying up. We're all seated in our homes. All those fancy parties that we used to have, and the attendant, the industry that was spawned from those parties have literally died. People have to reinvent themselves. Okay, how about how the pandemic has affected teaching and learning? Okay, we've had to reskill and upskill. There's had to be a reskilling and an upskilling of educators in order to provide remote learning to learners. And, learners themselves have had to adjust to being taught remotely. I'm a part of several different educator groups, and it's been interesting and in some instances agonizing to watch how a lot of school owners have just sat down and, they've been like deer caught in headlights. They're just totally unable to function, and they don't know how to provide remote learning. Whereas some have been so nimble and they've just got up and learned and improved and just continued running with it. It's amazing. It's really amazing the kind of different responses I've been able to observe. Now, looking at these 3 areas of crisis, on the face of it, everything just seems to be a lot of doom and gloom. And indeed, there's quite a bit of that. I'm not underplaying the gravity of this pandemic. It's been horrible to have people fall ill and to have them die, especially since they've had to be alone. So it really, there's been a lot that has been that is negative about it. But with every crisis, opportunities abound. It's just really up to us to get up and look around and see how, to explore the opportunities that there are for us to be part of, solutions to the different aspects of the crisis. Now, we're looking now at the opportunities. In this crisis, virtually all the opportunities, at least a sizable chunk, literally, of it, of the opportunities to be a part of legacy, constructing solutions. They're either directly or tangentially in the tech industry. And we'll look at a number of those opportunities. Okay. Now, a look at the health crisis. What are some of the responses? We listed them, we listed what has had to, how people have had to, what the health community has had to contend with. Slowing down the virus has meant that tech companies are, collaborating with government on contact tracing, information dissemination, and all sorts of things like apps to monitor, to help you monitor your risk levels and things like that. Granted, some of these things have their downside, but as far as I'm concerned, literally everything does have downsides if you can keep those in check. Another thing is that the restriction in movement has meant that, many people, there's been an exponential upsurge in a need for services of, organizations that that supply stuff via online platforms like Amazon. In fact, while everybody is letting go of staff, organizations like Amazon are they're employing thousands in countries across the world. Okay, they're hiring thousands of people to work from home as well as on site across the world presently, and they're using very sophisticated programming to make sure that deliveries are speedy and seamless. So these are the opportunities that are some of the opportunities that are available in the health sector. Also, we have taking care of the sick and the protecting frontline workers, which is, of course, paramount. Okay, we have, of course, PPE. The need for it has gone up. The tangible, well, the tangible is even understating it. The demand has just been out of the roof. In pre-COVID times, for instance, a typical hospital in the US used between 10 and 20,000 surgical masks a week, and that's just surgical masks, not the rest of the PPE, ensemble. It's now between 200 and 300 masks per week. You can do the math. A number of, these, and again, tech companies they're creating things like robots for the delivery of supplies to patients. They're making innovations in the manufacture of ventilators and other equipment. And even we have a number of these innovations happening locally. And I'm really very proud of that fact. And we do have, people manufacturing or beginning to manufacture these equipment here in Nigeria. Okay. Now we're still looking at the health crisis responses. We need to find cures and vaccines. And of course, who else is at the forefront of that? Biotechnology companies. Apparently, there's a number of them, about 23. Some are drug makers and some are just small startups. But they're all working to develop vaccines or treatments that target the infection that cause the novel coronavirus. Again, biotech, firmly in technology, isn't it? Again, okay, if we now look at the global financial crisis, we said that, rising unemployment was one of the greatest issues, and, fewer traditional opportunities for entrepreneurs, the ones they used to have, are no longer existing. So what's been happening? There's been pursuit of online streams of income. Lots of things have cropped up or grown. Some were existing before. There's a whole rush, literally, of training, coaching, creating apps, social media marketing, so much stuff happening online because that's the remaining safe frontier for all of us. And of course, businesses, those that are nimble, those that are appropriately skilled or have learned how to pick up the skills. They're pivoting their businesses to lucrative opportunities, including small entrepreneurs. I actually know personally, some dressmakers, fashion designers that are now making PPE, not just masks, but the entire ensemble of the PPE. Okay. Now, if we look at the opportunities in teaching and learning, we spoke about the reskilling of educators and learners themselves learning to cope with being taught remotely. The tech companies, they're working tirelessly to provide or upgrade existing online learning through different types. For instance, the platform we're on, and of course, all the regular ones, they've been working around the clock to solve problems like the security issues and things like that. Then the online course platforms as well, the ones that are like on demand, all the Udemy, Coursera, they're doing so much business now. And then, of course, there's content creation, curation, the countless videos and audio. There's just so much out there, and a lot of it has grown over the last couple of months, as occasioned by the pandemic. For instance, this is a very interesting infographic that I found. It's called, it says Zoom Boom. Apparently, pre-COVID, Zoom had about 10 million users per day. But as at last month, they had an average of 200 million users per day. I mean, if that isn't exponential, then I don't know what exponential is. So the opportunities in this field are, they're numerous. Okay, so who is in the best position to take advantage of all these opportunities across the various sectors that I talked about? It's a person with a STEM background, a person that has been taught, using a STEM curriculum. That's the kind of person that is in the best position. Even if such a person did not work directly in one of the STEM disciplines before the advent of the pandemic, the curriculum would have taught such a person critical skills that will enable he or she to take advantage of all these opportunities and be part of, an epoch-making solution. Now, I'm still talking who's in the best position. STEM training expands the learner's thinking, it widens their horizons. They're better able to think creatively, come up with innovative ideas, and work collaboratively. And we know that collaboration is critical. If you, for instance, look at things like the Nobel Prize, almost invariably over the last couple of years, even well before then, most of the prizes, especially in the science, or shall I call them the STEM-related disciplines, they're given to groups of people. So the ability to collaborate and work with others is a skill which STEM teaches and which is critical to thriving in this century. Now, the importance of providing our learners with exposure to a STEM curriculum has been made glaring by the pandemic, as far as I can see, and we must do so as a matter of urgency. As we've seen, the opportunities are there. We only need to, prepare for them. Success occurs when opportunity meets preparation. We remember the children are competing not for jobs locally, but the world is a global village indeed. I heard of a young man that recently, he's never left Nigeria. He got a job in the US as a coach, and he does it online. So we must prepare them for such opportunities so that they can compete with their contemporaries across the world. Well, I am done, but before I close completely, I would just like to end with this quote. Instead of learning to memorize facts and figures, students need to learn how to learn. I spoke about metacognition and how to solve problems. That's a quote attributed to Fred Swanica, the guy that heads up the African Leadership Group. They own the African ALU it's in this some Southern African country. I don't know how I've forgotten that, but they also own the ALA in South Africa. So, well, that's all for me for now. Thank you very much for listening to me, and if there are questions, I'll be glad to tackle them.
Okay, Auntie, thank you. I was blown away listening to you.
I
Oh
know you
my
can see me
God.
now.
I can. I think you are amazing. Anyway, I know you're amazing. I know. Beyond a
Well, it
doubt.
did
I
go
already
really
know.
rapidly, so I don't know if I don't
Everybody got
know
you.
for
Auntie,
what
I
it's
wish you could
worth.
see the comments. If you could see the comments on the side, they're all screaming that they want your slides, that they're just blown away, just like I am. And guys, please ask her questions because I can see in the waiting room our next speaker is waiting and he's soon going to be coming on. So please ask her questions. She said so many things, and I know Ademola was already taking notes. He shared with me on WhatsApp that he was taking notes. Laurie, thank you. My friend in Georgia is telling you thank you because she too really benefited a lot from what you shared. You shared a lot of fantastic things. Adeji says it was really, really good. Yes, it was. It was. She was beyond. I said it. She blew me away. She brought everything down. How important it was before and now even more than ever when she was talking about the surgical gloves, the how people who are in different fields have also learned to reskill and utilize the skills to now change to, okay, yes, I'm a tailor, but guess what, I can also make this now because this is what is trending, this is what people are doing. You see, you have to think like that. And that's what we keep saying whenever we go out about STEM skills, that is, people just run away and think that, oh my God, it's because it's science and math, I can't do this. No, it's not about being a scientist or being a mathematician. It's about the way you think and solving problems. People who are smart will say, wow, yes, I'm a tailor, but right now, am I really sewing clothes? People are actually wearing this kind of clothes. Maybe that's what I need to start working on right now. That's a problem solving skill. That's thinking the way we think as scientists, which is that I see something going on, let me adapt, let me switch. So questions, questions, questions. Okay, yes, Auntie. I see Auntie Otujo in Canada. She says, in a nutshell, Nigeria should prepare her children 0 to
You
18 years for the world market. Very good. She told you good job. And yes, Laurie says, could
indeed,
you please go
indeed.
over?
Thank you.
Yes, yes. Laurie said, could you please go over the metacognition definition, please? That's what Laurie is asking. The metacognition definition. She said you went over that early.
In well, indeed, it's learning how to learn, or learning, or understanding how you learn, and thinking about your thinking. Thinking about your thinking. There's a very interesting article. I'll share it with you and you can send it to Laurie about this, and the importance of really understanding how you as an individual learn so that you can actually sort of like teach yourself to learn better, to fit your learning to suit your own, how shall I put it? It's a bit beyond the VAC, where visual, where this, where that. The specifics of understanding how you learn and, now working out things that will help you learn better. Like I said, there's a very interesting article I have on it, so I can share that with you, Tola, and then you can send it to Laurie.
Okay. Thank you. Laurie, she's going to send me an article and then I'll send it to you. So do we have any other questions? Let me read some other comments here. Okay, so Engineer Victor Gumola, who is also one of our speakers, he's going to be speaking tomorrow. He said, great and incisive insights she brought to fore. Thank you. Victor is in
Thank you very
Texas.
much.
Yes,
Okay.
he's an engineer with ExxonMobil, and
Okay.
he too was blown away like I was. Okay, so let's see. Mr. Ayodeji says, STEM appears to be, good. STEM appears to be costly with limited capacity and unaffordable equipment. How do we manage in low-income community schools? Very nice, very nice.
By
Auntie, do you want
being
to?
very creative. Well, you do know better than me, but you really have to be creative. To be
Yes.
honest, it does seem like it's expensive, but like they say, if we think it's expensive, then we must just compare it with ignorance and see how costly that is. So the onus is on us, is, as providers of education, to be as creative and innovative as we can. There's a lot more we can do than we think. I've seen people in the village use things within the environment to teach, and it's totally fascinating. Like they say, the most impactful thing in the thing that impacts teaching and learning the most is not necessarily infrastructure, it's the quality of the teachers. So if you have teachers, the first step of STEM is to teach teachers themselves. We cannot just take a science teacher, a technology, take teachers from the four disciplines, throw them together and think that they're going to become STEM teachers. They have to be taken through a STEM curriculum. And one of the things they're going to learn is how to be creative, so that, once we can do that for teachers, and we get a buy-in from them, regardless of where they are. If you have a creative teacher in the village, in the city, with a fantastic lab, and he's not creative, he's not going to achieve as much as one who is truly creative and has limited resources. So I think you'll want to add to that, won't you, Tola? You're the STEM advocate.
Yes, I actually do. I would love to add to that, but let me add to that. Then I see some more questions here. Very good. I like that people are engaged, are asking questions. Believe me, the only limit that we have is the limit we place on ourselves. I tell people that if you give me the choice of having a highly skilled doctor with poor equipment, or a mediocre doctor who has fantastic equipment, flat out, I will always choose the highly skilled doctor, because that doctor will now say, you know what, I might not have everything I need to, that I should have, but I can still work with what I have and say, let me tweak this, let me tweak that. So it's really you have to decide. I remember so many times that I thought, when the school barely had anything and I was a teacher, which means my income was really not that great. But the fact that I knew that my children were really curious, they really were. That's the thing that people need to understand. The children actually do want to learn. They're eager. Yes, they want to. So if you go into the classroom and you see that, wow, they really want to learn, you now go back and say, okay, I want to teach them. Let me give you an example. When I was teaching science, or what they call general science in California, I remember I was teaching, was it motion? Or one of them anyway. I can't remember which of them right now, but I had to go back. People are so blessed now. In fact, I wonder why people complain. They have so many resources on Google now. When I was doing it then, I went to the teachers who were experienced. I went through their notes, and they also gave me ideas. Okay, I use this, I use that. And then I also had to sit down and think, okay, somebody who was a science student, and my background, my first degree was in chemistry. What did we use in the lab? What can I use as replacements? I had to go back and think. And then I came back with replacements that were inexpensive, and that's what I used. So I don't actually like to listen to anyone who gives me the excuse, oh, it's too expensive. Well, what can I do? Last year, when we were at Ibadan for the Future of Education Summit with Pastor Francis, one of the teachers there, she was teaching, she's a public school teacher too. She had, I'm trying to remember how many students she said she had in her class. Wow, it was a huge amount.
Probably hundreds.
Yes, it was huge. Unfortunately, she also lived in the neighborhood
with 200 kids.
Yes. She even lived in the neighborhood where her children were. And she said she will go around and she'll pick through discarded bottles, discarded bottle tops. She'll go to the market, she'll buy inexpensive materials, and she'll find a way to teach the students with whatever those discarded bottles, whatever cheap materials she had. And the children as she was coming down the street, the children will clap for her. They will be so happy to see her. They will run to her, they will hug her. Why were the children enthusiastic? Why were they happy to see her like that? Because they saw that this teacher was making such an effort to make learning come alive for them. So anyone who is talking about expenses, please, let's put that aside. All right. Laurie says there are STEM grants from companies and organizations. Yes, Laurie, there are. But the thing is, a lot of those opportunities, unfortunately, are limited to the US and some to Europe. There are not too many here to Africa. There are, but not as, particularly when it comes to educators, it's not as robust as it should be. And these are things that we're trying to see. How can we change that? Because our teachers here too need help. All right, so someone said, can we be assisted with a somewhat curriculum in delivering STEM services in our schools? Kenneth, we're going to talk about that. In fact, that's part of why we're here, is to talk about the strides and the efforts we're going to be making towards that here in our state and hopefully in Nigeria too. Well, people could take examples from what we're doing here in Lagos. All right, so how can one have access to the STEM curriculum in the primary sector? When you say primary sector, do you mean primary schools? If you're talking about primary schools, like I just mentioned to Kenneth, we're also going to be working on things across the state, and I'm going to talk about that here too. All right, so let's see. Okay, this one was just reiterating what you said earlier, Auntie, about metacognition. Okay, very good. Thank you, Babs. Okay, any more questions for Auntie? Because our next speaker is already, he has a lot that he too wants to share.
I'm sure.
Guys, I want you to give a resounding thank you to Auntie in the comments. She has been amazing. She's going to share the article. I don't know about her slides. Some people can be
Well,
very
I can.
protective of
Oh
their
no,
slides.
not at all. I'm happy to share them. I'm quite happy.
Okay.
I'm very happy to
Okay, she
share them.
says she's willing to.
So
Oh,
I'll
guys, then
send
you
them
better
to
tell her
you.
thank you. Okay.
I'll
She
send them
said
to
she's
you, and then you
gonna she's here.
can
So guys, start telling
send
her
it.
thank you. Okay.
You're
Thank you, thank
welcome.
you,
Thank you
thank
very
you, thank
much.
you.
Okay then.
Oh wow! Somebody said that because you made it so education so interesting, he wants to see you again. Yes, that's how she is. Immediately you listen to her and her sister, you just want to keep learning over and over and over from them, and that's how they are. You can tell they are children of educators. There's something about them, something special. Auntie, thank you.
Thank
God
you
bless
very
you.
much. It's been a pleasure.
Yes.
Okay then.
Thank you, thank you,
Okay
thank you.
then.
Yes, they're all telling you thank you. Good people,
Oh,
good people. Tell her thank
thank,
you.
thank you to
Okay,
you too. Okay, then. Thanks for
okay.
having me.
All right.
Bye
Bye,
for
ma.
now.
Yes, ma.
I'll pop back in to listen to
Of course,
the
of
other.
course.
Okay,
Okay, so
okay then.
just mute yourself, Auntie.
Okay, I'll do
You're
that.
still there, but just so that you won't be solo. Okay, so let me bring him on board. Our next speaker. Our next speaker is Dr. Fambumi, and let me tell you, he is amazing. Okay, still morning for you, sir, right? Yes. Good morning, sir, where you are. Can you hear me? I think you're
Good
muted. Let
morning.
me see.
Am I
Okay, okay,
muted?
good. No, no,
Can
you're
you hear
good.
me?
You're good. I can hear you
Oh,
loud
okay.
and
Well,
clear.
nice to see you.
Yes.
I guess it's been quite a ride since we last
Ed,
saw. We've been through all this
since we last
COVID
saw.
and all that,
Yes.
and
Oh my God, it's
and
true.
yeah,
Yeah.
I was this close to being stranded in Lagos.
That's
I,
right.
I would have
Because
been on the
you were
ground over
here
there.
right before
Yes,
everything took place.
exactly.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I'm grateful that you invited me to
Oh
participate in this
no.
program, and even more so that you preceded my talk with somebody who had actually made it easy for me because she had covered a lot of grounds
What
that
you're
I
looking
thought I would have had to cover in
for.
terms of getting people sensitized to the actual value of this thing that we call STEM.
Yes.
And actually, people are beginning to look at the word STEM as if, what is this strange discipline? Back in the day, we used to just say science and technology, right?
Yes.
Because
Yes.
we know that we spend a lot of money buying different types of components, devices, technologies. Even those who cannot read can use cell phones. People who cannot do, what I mean, it's everything around us that's man-made is a product of some technology or the other. And of course, the countries where those products are made, they realize that they need to teach people the science behind those technologies so they can be productive and they can create the value that others will pay money for to acquire the technologies. The only thing was that when it was becoming clear that different societies, different countries needed more scientists, they discovered that there's a big gap between the science and the technology, that there is something called engineering and there's something called mathematics. Okay, so I mean that's how those letters come together. Of course, we needed a very clever, very neat acronym. So we say STEM. So people now even sometimes they think of STEM as if they were talking of the stem of a tree or something like that. But the truth, but the truth of the matter is that everything that we talk about when we talk about STEM really is basic knowledge. I mean, if we're looking to build a knowledge society, what we call STEM should be the foundation of just about any discipline or any curriculum. And the reason I say that is because even a newborn child already by instinct is a scientist because they know what they should not do so they don't get hurt. They know that if they roll down the stairs and gravity takes over, they're going to end up being bruised. They know that if they stick their finger into a flame, they're going to be burnt. So by nature, we are tuned to live by science. And those who deny science do it at their own peril. And we see that now even under COVID-19, that those who refuse to follow what scientists are saying, they're getting sick in large numbers, and they're creating
Yes.
issues all over the world. So the case for science itself was already made even before we came to be as human beings. What I'm going to focus on in my talk, because the preceding speaker, like I said, already showed a whole variety of examples of how STEM now needs to be looked at very carefully and very strategically, especially for countries that are looking to improve their economic standing globally, for countries that are looking to empower their citizens with the ability to reason and have the right knowledge to create value for themselves. So I'm going to skip those parts of my
Okay.
notes where I intended to talk about STEM itself, because that had been gracefully done very well by my predecessor in this program. So
Okay. So
now
I'm
the
gonna make
question
you
now is
solo
that,
on the screen. Let me go ahead. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna make you solo, sir. Okay. So you're alone, and I go.
okay, so the question that I guess anybody will ask is, why me? Why are you asking a male scientist to talk about women in STEM? Why am I uh, put in a position where I have to let everybody know that the fact that there are so fewer women in STEM is a cause for concern? Because some people have more or less gotten used to that idea, because they thought, oh, okay, it's the way the culture is, or the women are this or this or that. But the case I'm going to make today, which I hope everybody will pay attention to, is that our society cannot be fully competitive on the global scale if we do not make a concerted effort to include everyone, old, young, male, female, in this enterprise of STEM expertise. And that will become clear as I go along in my speech. Like I said, I was going to spend some time doing what I call decoding STEM, but I'm going to skip that because we already heard enough about that. I'm going to go straight to the disadvantage of not having full participation of both genders in STEM. And what are the barriers that are responsible for that, and what actionable strategies can we adopt to broaden the participation of women in STEM? Now, one thing that we already know that doesn't really need to be repeated too much is that the most successful nations on this planet as we speak, that earn a lot of income simply by the productivity of their citizens, simply by the value that the citizens are able to add to their raw materials, and the creation of new products and technologies that they can sell to the rest of the world, it is because they have made substantial investments on purpose in STEM. Okay, and STEM itself, is the gateway to value creation and value addition in any national economy. Ultimately, the case I'm going to try to make is that African nations need to prioritize the maximization of our population of citizens that are STEM literate. In other words, now that we've seen uh, a very tragic event in COVID-19 that has more or less exposed the fact that different nations across the globe, have challenges when it comes to dealing with something like this. We now realize that there's really nothing that's holding us back, okay, in stepping forward and taking the bull by the horn and deciding that, well, we've seen even countries like the United States, expose aspects of themselves that we never expected in terms of a substantial population of people who are so-called quote unquote anti-science, and they're paying the price for it. So as African nations, I would like our leaders to wake up to the fact that this is the time to realize the priorities that we need to place on empowering our people, empowering our citizens with a knowledge base that equips them to, number one, understand the fact that the universe in which we exist is governed by the laws and principles of science, and the tools for understanding science, things like maths and engineering, allow us to engage our creativity to produce value, which we can use to exchange for other value that we can get from the rest of the world. And ultimately, the issue is that we need to maximize the percentage of our population that are knowledge empowered, which in this particular case, I'm going to focus on women, because we've seen enough of various perceptions and prejudices and biases and cultural norms that tend to slow down the engagement of our girls and women in the sciences and the technologies and engineering and mathematics. So I'm going to be citing a number of studies that were done here in the United States, but they apply equally well across the globe to any other country, in the sense that here, obviously, people are concerned about the same very issue. How do we get the majority of our citizens to become productive in terms of creating solutions to problems that can be used to create products and industries that are valuable across the globe? Attracting and retaining more women in STEM workforce will maximize innovation, creativity, and competitiveness. Scientists and engineers are working to solve some of the most vexing challenges of our time, finding cures for diseases like cancer and malaria, tackling global warming, providing people with clean drinking water, developing renewable energy sources, and understanding the origins of the universe. Engineers design many of the things that we use daily: buildings, bridges, computers, cars, wheelchairs, x-ray machines. When women are not involved in the design of these products, needs and desires unique to women may be overlooked. For example, some early voice recognition systems were calibrated to typical male voices. As a result, women's voices were literally unheard. Similar cases are found in many other industries. For instance, a predominantly male group of engineers tailored the first generation of automotive airbags to adult male bodies, resulting in avoidable deaths of women and children. With a more diverse workforce, scientific and technological products, services, and solutions are likely to be better designed and more likely to represent all users. Now, the first question that comes to mind is, what are the traditional barriers to STEM for girls and women? And many studies have been conducted to try to answer these questions. And I mean, of course, in today's world, you can always go online and Google that topic alone, and you'll see a lot of references on it. But I will just key in on some of the, the key findings of many of these studies that we can take away with ourselves and try to see whether or not we can find remedies to it and find approaches that will allow us to overcome those issues. First is perception. Okay, the image of a STEM professional is often that of a male in a lab coat, which is really very far from the truth, but that's I don't know how that got wired into our brains, but that's the way it is. And also, given that as it is, leads to even women themselves looking at themselves as not being interested in STEM, because I guess either because they feel that that's the conventional wisdom, or because either the parents and guardians, are steering them away from STEM because they don't think that that should be their priorities. But the unfortunate thing is that, women, at any age have just as much capabilities, if not more, in doing the STEM disciplines than men. I mean, the culture of promoting domestic roles for women in terms of looking for a husband so they can become wives and mothers, yes, they're superior to men in that regard, but that's not the only way, the only thing that they're superior at. They're also superior at multitasking. They're superior at thinking about more than one problem at the same time, and they're superior at strategic thinking in terms of thinking about the long-term, outcomes of various choices that they have to make. And those are essentially the key skills that could actually make them into superior scientists and engineers if the rest of society will realize that, we are losing a lot of our advantage by not encouraging more women and girls in STEM. Now, also, there's the gender discrimination that women face in the workforce when they don't get equal pay for equal work. It can be very discouraging because it's like, okay, why bother if I'm not going to earn as much as my male counterpart? So I'm not, going to apply myself to that effort. Then lastly, the one point that struck me that I think was also mentioned by the previous speaker is that teachers have to be especially trained on how to teach women the sciences and the engineering and mathematics. Because if you have a teacher standing before you using examples that highlight the achievement of male scientists, the achievement of male engineers, then a girl sitting in that audience will not feel that they belong. I think we need to highlight more female achievers in the STEM field. We need to highlight the history of women in science and technology, which is very extensive, but it's never really taught specifically. And we need to get to a position where the girl does not feel any less capable to pursue careers in STEM as the boy. The opportunities to pursue careers in science, technology, engineering, and math is also a matter of pay equity. Occupational segregation accounts for the majority of the wage gap, and although women still earn less than men in science and engineering fields, as they do on average in the overall workforce, women in science and engineering tend to earn more than women earn in other sectors of the workforce, which is something that, on the surface of it, you might say, okay, that should encourage them to pursue it. But when you're in a group of people and you find that for the same amount of work you're not getting the same amount of pay, then obviously you feel cheated, you feel discouraged, and you don't feel like you need to apply yourself any harder. And then there have been people who have tried to suggest that maybe there's something in the female brain that's different, that makes them unable to do certain tasks that people do in the engineering and the science fields. But none of those studies have proven themselves to be valid, in the sense that all of the research that I have done and all of the reference that I've reviewed have shown that there's absolutely nothing in the biology of women that prevents them from excelling in the sciences and technology. So if our society is not engaging the brain power of women in the sciences, in the technologies and math and engineering, we are losing out altogether because we're being less productive and being less competitive. Now, of course, there are also all these other negative stereotypes, that, when you talk to a girl about doing math and doing engineering, she thinks she can't do it when, in fact, she may be able to do it, except that something in her brain or something that somebody had told her has been that, oh, well, that's not for girls. Girls don't do that. Girls don't do this or that. I mean, we need to discontinue that. We need to dispel with that. We need to make sure that our teachers, our administrators, or whoever is in charge of formulating our educational curriculum pay specific attention that we need to very quickly, very rapidly, and expeditiously, equalize the playing field for women in STEM. Now, I'm going to move forward to discussing what I will consider to be action strategies, because I don't want to leave you with the doom and gloom that, okay, all these are happening and there's nothing we can do about it. There's plenty that can be done about it to, expand the opportunities to women in STEM. There's plenty that can be done to broaden the participation of women in STEM. And my advocacy is that if we are to become competitive as nations, as societies, as groups of people, we need to engage in a maximal way the involvement of girls and women in the sciences, in the technologies, and in engineering and math. It starts from the home, actually. I think we need to educate our parents to encourage the girls. Number one, to believe in themselves to give them the feeling that there's nothing they cannot accomplish if they put their mind to it. We need to have them hear affirmations that says, if you're interested in anything and you feel capable to do it, you should not let anything stop you from pursuing it. Because the number of times or in the number of studies we've seen where parents, scold the girls and say, well, you should go learn how to cook instead. Well, I mean, fine, yeah, learning to cook is good. I mean, I happen to be a good cook, even though I'm a male, because you have to feed yourself. But the thing is that women should not grow up thinking that there are certain areas of knowledge that is not available to them. We need to, I guess, make a conscious effort to educate our parents, to encourage them, to affirm the girl child that she can do whatever her abilities and desires permit her to do. And then one thing that I also learned back in the 80s when I used to be in academia, I would have conversations with some of my female students as to why they chose, a career in aerospace engineering, which of course you have like a classroom of 40 students, maybe only one or two of them are female. So I was very curious as to, why they worked so hard, why they were persistent, and why they were able to achieve what they achieved in a quote unquote male field. And the number one factor that came across in those conversations is that somewhere along the line, they were exposed to high achieving women in the technology field. That is to say that if at a very early age, women are able to see mentors and exemplars and people that they look up to who are female like themselves and who are also high achievers in the sciences and in the engineering and math and technology areas, that affirms within them the feeling that they also can achieve in those areas. So one of the strategies that has been proposed, I'm not inventing all these. These are things that others have studied and agree with, is that we need to expose our girls to female STEM achievers. In other words, as part of teaching our teachers on how to teach girls in the sciences, they need to be able to connect with the desires of the young girls and women to want to be like people they admire. And there are plenty of them. I happen to know a few of them personally, who are very highly accomplished scientists and engineers, who are also women. And then the third point, which I think is really very important in the sense that I personally have this belief. Now, it's a belief, I can't prove it. I don't have any data to show you that every newborn child is a new arrival from a distant civilization. And what that says is that when you hear stories about child prodigies or children who are exceptional in different fields, you have to ask yourself, how did they come about those abilities? All of that reinforces for me that when you have a new arrival from a distant civilization, they brought in to us some talent, some knowledge that did not exist here before they arrived. Now, if that child is not in an environment where that innate talent or innate interest is nurtured, then obviously, it dies. The interest dies, the ability dies. They are forced to go into some other profession that they may not like, but because they have to earn a living, they have to go do it. And we're all at a loss, we're all losers for that, because that distant technology, that distant civilization, that genius that child has brought to this planet has been squashed because we have not learned to nurture each individual child based on how they express themselves, how they express their own abilities, and how they are able to grow up into productive members of our society. So, in other words, disciplines like STEM need to originate, at least connect directly with the interests of individual students. Now, I've heard in the prior conversations before my talk about the expense of STEM. And that's laughable in the sense that, I don't care where you are, whether you're in a village or in the city or in the desert or on the ocean, you're surrounded by science. You may not have the tools to articulate what you see and what you feel, but science is there regardless. The water is flowing based on the laws of fluid mechanics. Things are falling down trees based on the laws of gravity. If you bang your head against the wall, you're gonna get bruised. If you plant a seed of a particular vegetable, that vegetable will grow in due time. I mean, science is everywhere. So you don't even have to spend a penny before you begin to wake up the curiosity of a child, before you begin to teach them, the process for discovering for themselves what is in their neighborhood. So, relating STEM to the interests of the children is also a very important, strategy. And then finally, this is already known, it's been mentioned already, that hands-on problem solving, is one of the fastest way to get somebody engaged in STEM. And when I say problem solving, I mean actually feeling the fact that you have the power to change something that you think is not right. In other words, if let's say, you live in a household where there's no air conditioning, for example, and you're all sweaty and everybody is sweating every day, if somebody was to show you how you can blow air over some pool of water and evaporate create some water vapor that will now absorb heat from the bodies of whoever is present, you begin to say, wait a minute, I mean, this is interesting. You would like to learn more. Even before you even go to school or sign up for any engineering program, you're already beginning to think the same way the guy who invented the air conditioner was thinking. And that already begins to sensitize you to the disciplines that you need to learn, the information that you need to gather, the numbers that you need to crunch in order to be able to design some device that could cool a room of a given size. And one of the lessons that I personally learned from my advisor when I was pursuing my PhD program is that a lot of the devices and technologies that we use that are useful to us, you can actually design an initial version of it, with little or no, college education. But when you try to now improve it to make the efficiency, higher, that's when you need to go to college and get a PhD. And I kind of laughed at that because, you can build wind turbines just by knowing how to, bring together different vanes and put them on some axle and hanging it up in a manner where the wind can blow at it. But if you want to improve the conversion efficiency of that wind vane to the level that is of a commercial grade, then you have a lot of learning to do. But again, that is where the interest in STEM starts. The interest in STEM starts from you feeling that you need to have these tools in order to achieve a given goal. So if somehow or the other we can actually, agree on the fact that no one is particularly unable to learn STEM. I mean, I come from a generation where, it's almost, if I can tell you stories that will make you, want to like scream, because even back when I was in high school, we had this thing called fail in English, fail in all. I don't know if anybody in the audience understands that. That means that you could have gotten all the A's you want in math, in physics, in chemistry, but if your grade in English grammar or English literature is poor, you're considered a failure, which is a colonial legacy that we, I guess we live with at that time. Obviously, it's not like that anymore, but it goes to show you how the structure of the educational system can have an impact on the sensitivity of an individual student, on how much effort and energy they apply to learning that subject. So in all, what I'm saying is that we all need to, I guess, share the responsibility in terms of not just being parents, being teachers, being administrators, or being government officials, or being philanthropists or whatever, to realize that everything that is happening is not happening, it's not happening in vacuum. If we see that there are too few girls and women in STEM, I think we need to get together and just make up our mind that we need to correct that, and devote the resources necessary to make sure that, no girl is ever made to feel that STEM is too hard, or STEM is a discipline for men, or STEM is something that will slow their ability to grow into whatever it is they feel the woman should grow up into. They should realize that even as a female, they have advantages that men sometimes lack in terms of their ability to think strategically, in terms of their patience, in terms of their overall attitude towards preserving life. Uh, so, in other words, all I'm trying to say is that we need to teach our children that the intellectual skills required for them to achieve any goal they have in their life can be taught, can be learned, can be acquired, and they don't have to feel in any way that there's anything stopping in their way. We should praise them for whatever effort they apply, in trying to learn these things. And most importantly, I want to make a point about how we assess the abilities of our children. Because of course I'm an old timer, you can tell from my age that I came from an era where, when you're in a class, you're more kind of concerned about whether or not your grades are higher than that of the next student, or whether or not you're at the top of your class or what have you. But I would like to argue that when it comes to disciplines of STEM, we need to focus more on the mastery of the subject as opposed to creating competition among students. We need to be able to devise a process whereby we are able to get a child to understand a concept and understand it enough that that child can actually explain it to another child, to a level where, they just know it. It's not so much of, oh, I got, over 50%, so I passed. No, you need to know it, conceivably up to 100%. Now, the analogy to that is that when you're building a house, there's no such thing as building the house, the foundation of a house to 60% of its strength. If you continue to build a house and you put in one layer on top of the other that is not 100% the strength it needs to be, by the time you finish building that house, the whole thing might just about collapse, because all of those deficiencies will add up, eventually to create a catastrophic failure. The same thing in the sciences and the math and engineering. If you were letting students just keep going without helping them to master all the critical skills, and you're just saying, oh, well, we're going to cut the grade, and, half of you will pass, half of you will fail, then what you're really doing is that you're building, faulty foundations on top of faulty foundations. And at the end of the day, the student will get to a point where all of those cumulative faults will reach to a point where they say, oh, I really don't understand this, I'm not going to do it anymore. So a way to try to strengthen the foundation of STEM for our children, especially for girls, is to make sure that we pay enough attention to even the things they don't understand. We spend the time to make sure that they understand it, so that in going forward, by the time we now increase the level of the difficulty of what we're going to give to them, they already feel confident that they know what they're supposed to know. And then the other thing is that, teachers have to be aware of all of these stereotypes that I've mentioned. They have to be aware of all these barriers that I've mentioned, and they have to be conscious in terms of dealing with it. In other words, if you see a girl or a young woman that is showing signs of being discouraged or feeling the weight of some bias against her own ability, we need to be purposeful and conscious of the need to address that and make sure that we help correct it before the child proceeds further. And I think I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again. We need to expose our girls to successful female role models in maths and science, engineering and technology. And I think my time is almost up, so I'm gonna, hurry to my concluding remarks. Which in essence, STEM is gender neutral. So if any situation arises where, females or female students are feeling less able or less interested in STEM, something is not right that needs to be corrected. Because there's nothing about STEM that favors one gender or the other. We as a society need to realize that everyone within our society needs to be empowered with the knowledge of STEM. Everyone needs to be empowered with the knowledge of their own ability to solve any problems that they encounter. And one point that I used to make to people is that we talk about wanting to grow up and getting a good job and making money and this and that. And I will argue that the money that you're looking for is in the pocket of the person whose problem you can solve. If you see somebody who is suffering from a particular issue and you can come up with a solution, I guarantee you they'll be very happy to give you the money in exchange for that. And also on the issue of national competitiveness, of course, I don't want to go into a whole tirade about, the state of competitiveness of our various nations on the continent. I would just say that, for us collectively to prosper, we have to make sure that everyone is able to contribute to that prosperity. And that when we see large numbers of our students or young people that are deprived of the ability to learn or to pursue various careers, that hurts every one of us as a collective. And we need to dispel the traditional barriers of perception, culture, and gender discrimination. And we should make this a priority and make it intentional that these actionable strategies are adopted for STEM teaching of girls. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. We really appreciate your. See, you can always tell when you are with profs. They have so much that they have to give. They just give and give and give and give. Thank you. Yes, I should have made a cursory introduction at the beginning. I met him at a program in February that where he was speaking about the need for innovation and innovative skills and skilling up our youth in Nigeria. And he was so passionate about it. In fact, I had to make sure I followed him so I could get his email address, I could get his phone number and keep in touch with him because everything he said resonated with me on such strong levels. And it might seem strange that I'm asking a prof to talk about the need for including women, but like he said, he's been teaching a lot of students over the years. He also knows a lot of high achieving engineers and scientists who are women. So I think who better to be able to speak about these issues and why it's very important. It shouldn't always be a woman that will speak about women issues. Men are also, I mean, they have sisters, they were giving birth to my mothers. They can also speak about these issues too. So I felt it was important that being somebody who has been in the field, because if you had read his mini bio, and believe me, that was mini, what I put in our flyer, it's so much more condensed than that. In fact, I don't even know where to begin. All that he has done in both industry and in academia, if you've seen what he's done and the people he's interacted with, you will know that he's really impacted a lot of lives. I sat down listening to him for, it was an hour that he spoke. Yeah, 45 minutes, an hour. And I ran after him after the program. And I've been in touch with him all this time because all I can think about is how can we tap the ideas that he has to see what we can do here. And that's why you're hearing him talk about actionable steps. He doesn't just like to talk. He wants to say, look, what are we going to do? He's been coming back and forth to Nigeria for years, as he shared to me, because he's really, really desiring to see us bring our children to this place where they're able to carry out using these skills to change this country. He's really passionate about it. I'm sure you could hear it. So I couldn't think of anyone else than him to ask to do this. So I've been saying, please send messages, and I am not seeing any messages. Okay, I do have a comment from my aunt, Mrs. Akinwari, and she said, great presentation. We need to include STEM in early childhood development and pre-primary education curriculum so that children will be able to imbibe these skills as they grow. And she expresses her gratitude to you. Mrs. Akinwari is another champion. She has been on a course about developing early childhood development, making sure that it's really done right here in Lagos State. She's been doing this for a while. Wow, let's see, how long have I? Wow, it's over 5 years now that I've been following and also being a part of what they're doing. And like she's saying, we have to start really young. He said the same thing too when he was speaking. We have to start really young. We need to stop thinking that it's about money. We need to stop giving ourselves excuses. In fact, there was a comment that he made, and I hope a lot of people held on to that, which is children are actually natural scientists. I found that out myself. We're the ones who say, you're not good at science, you're not good at math. It's not true. Children naturally are. What happens is that we now pass the fears that we have to them eventually, or maybe they had really bad teachers who now scare them away from it. But children actually love science. Just watch the way they interact, watch the way they think, watch the way they like to engage with one another. Then you see they're scientists. Okay, I see a question. Very good. Laurie asks, what kind of ways are you seeing universities making an effort to reach female students for STEM study? Very good. So that's a question to you, sir. She said, what kind of ways are you seeing universities making an effort to reach female students for STEM study?
Well, actually, that's an excellent question, and one that I've had the opportunity to actually discuss at other levels. And the way we've looked at it is that universities should not see themselves as isolated institutions. They should see themselves as hubs of learning in whatever geographical area they are. In other words, there should be collaborative relationships between universities and all the local schools in their surrounding, all the way down to preschool. Because the issue is that, when the younger children are exposed to older children who are doing things that they admire and they feel are useful, that begins to generate within them a equivalent desire to want to pursue that. So, I would recommend that every university should have some type of a liaison relationship or even some type of ongoing program, not only to assist the teachers at the secondary and the primary schools, but to also create a continuum of interactions between the students and the older citizens of the. I mean, for example, I mean, when you take an undergraduate student, for example, the best way to get that undergraduate student to actually master whatever they're learning is to challenge them to go and teach the same thing to a younger student somewhere
Yes.
at a high school or at a grade school. In other words, it's a famous Feynman principle that you don't understand a concept in physics until you're able to teach it to a 4-year-old. In other
Yes.
words, you have to get to a level where you can
You can
pull out the
simplify it.
essence of that
Yes, of
subject
it.
and
Yes.
explain it to a complete novice, somebody who
Yes.
does not have any background, and get them to feel a sense of
Of it.
understanding. That is when you yourself can prove that you know it. Just cramming something from a textbook and repeating
Means
it to a
nothing.
teacher to get the grade does not mean you've learned something. You have to be able to stand on your 2 feet and answer the question that the 4-year-old will ask you, enough for that 4-year-old to be satisfied that you understand what you're talking
Not
about.
doing it. Yes. Fantastic. All right, let's see. Yes, children really do. Damilola says children really love science. Fantastic. Damilola is also a STEM person. She carries out STEM programs. And Teotu just says she really loves your presentation. She's in Canada. She's another really, really passionate education comrade. Was doing a lot of programs here in Lagos for years. And I also consider her someone that is a mentor that I also look up to and learn from. So yes, I want people to take away a lot of what you mentioned today, the action steps about being examples to our children. Let's see what else. In fact, people, let's see which of you paid attention today. If you can list one or two of his action steps, I'm not going to force feed you. Just list one or two of them back there. Let's see. And I'm going to be waiting. Let's see what else you got. Because I know I wrote down notes when I was off from what he had shared, because there was so much there that he gave us. I'm still waiting. I'm just hoping there's no network that's delaying them. Okay, while I'm waiting for them to share some of the action steps that they learned from you, I want people to go back and realize he used that word action step. Action step means that as you're leaving, you're going to start thinking about how you're going to start doing these things now. It's not, okay, I heard all this wonderful stuff. Yeah, that's it. No, you're going to go back to your schools. Even when you're with your children at home, you're going to start thinking about how you're going to start doing this. And he said, okay, let me see. Okay, I'm going to read what Laurie said. Laurie has really been paying attention. Yes. He said something that I also keyed into because it also was really important in my life, which is a lot of I would say that's from girls, a lot of young ladies, girls, when we're growing up, it's really important for us to see role models to look up to and say, you know what, I can be like this. So that even when things are really hard in the classroom, because you already know that person succeeded, and that person did really well, you're like, okay, yes, I can do this. That happened to me too. My mom is a scientist, and I also had a mentor. I don't know where she is now. In fact, I keep saying that I need to find her. Every time I keep telling myself I need to find her. She was a chemical engineer. No, not chemical. She was a petrochemical engineer. Yes, petrochemical engineer. And she was so brilliant. The way she manipulated technology, the way she was utilizing it, I just admired it so much. And wow, I just want to be like her. So young girls seeing someone like that is so important. So I want to also encourage, like he said, among his action steps, teachers as educators, parents, introduce your young children to people like that. If you can't introduce them to someone like that physically, find people online, find clips on YouTube and say, look at this woman, look at what she's doing. Look at that. One day, imagine you can be like her. They don't necessarily have to be that in that precise field, but just that spark in their imagination that, wow, one day all this smarts that I see that person being, I can be that. It's more than enough. Okay, so, oh, good. We have people making comments. So let me start with Laurie's own. Laurie said, this is important. Universities do need to work to collaborate with schools for younger students to build a pipeline system. Yes, it's important. Okay. And yes, Mrs. Bakare is also a fantastic school owner. She really loves STEM, utilization of STEM with her children, her early, what do you call those ones? Yeah, early child, and also the ones in primary school. We've been doing a lot of work in her school. And she said, you mentioned about girls being encouraged to study STEM. Yes, and to be inspired by female scientists. Very good. She paid attention. And engineers. And then Babs, they are reiterating your action points, linking female students to female STEM leaders. Good. You see, a lot of them picked on that as a form of mentoring the young. Okay, Adeni, you're asking, how can STEM education be improved? We're going to talk about that next. I'm going to go into that. I loved what you said about the necessity for teachers to be specifically trained to teach women with STEM, to teach STEM with women role models. Yes, Laurie, that was a really good one that he brought up. Yes. So you see, they were paying attention. They picked a lot of your key points. Now, the thing is, people carry these key points that he gave us back to your schools, to your homes. And please give a round applause. Say thank you to Dr. Fabumi for all of us. He has been so amazing. In fact, you guys don't even know how rich what he has is. Go back and read his flyer. Like I said, that's just a fraction of what he has. So please tell him thank you for sparing us his valuable, precious time because he's done so many things. In fact, when I was sitting with him and he was telling me all the different projects he was involved in, I was just shaking my head and thinking goals of what I want to be like when I'm older. You know what I mean? When you look at someone and say, I want to be like that. That was what I was thinking. So please tell him thank you. Very good. Oh, more people are sharing the action steps. Okay. Children should be encouraged to master critical skills while they're learning. Very good. It's not enough for children just to pass. See, they were really paying attention. Very good. Kende was the one that shared that. Laurie says thank you. Bob says thank you. And Mrs. Bakare says thank you. Thank you so much, sir. We're so grateful for your valuable time. Thank you. Thank you. Guys, this is someone that we're going to be working with because he has so many ideas for our children. He really is one of those Nigerians. He's in diaspora. He's in the States. But like I said, he comes back and forth to Nigeria all the time because he really wants to see our children utilize their full potentials. He's one of us. Do you get what I'm saying? He's one of us. Thank you, sir. Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
God bless you, sir. All
Thank you.
righty. Yes, sir. Thank you. Wow. So we were already having someone already asking, how do we, what was that question he asked here? How can STEM education be improved? Good, good, good. Very good points. So let's do that. I am going to put you on mute, sir. You can still
Okay.
be listening in the background. Yeah, I'll just put you on mute.
Fine.
Okay. And I will put you in the background. Okay. Okay. So we come to my presentation. He was asking about how STEM can be improved. I'm hoping that the network will allow me to share the screen. If it doesn't, I'll just go ahead and just tell stories and share ideas that I have. So let me try to load my PowerPoint. While I'm doing so, I hope that we're taking a lot of the lessons that we're getting from, oh, wonderful. Don't you just love this? Okay, here's blah, 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 blah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, let's see. Okay, share screen and application. Oh, Lord. Oh, I thought I had it on. Okay, so there we go. All right, so I'm going to go back and affirm that you can all see that screen. So if you can see, yes, thank you. Your daughter is listening. Very good, Kende. Thank you very much. Thank you to everyone who said thank you to Dr. Fabumi. He's an amazing man. In fact, one day we'll sit down and talk about the untold, unsung heroes in Nigeria who have done so much behind the scenes. He'll be one of them, believe me. So please, if you can see the screen, the PowerPoint screen I had, please just say yes in the comments. How can you get access to his works? Very good. I wish you had asked that before he left. He wrote a fantastic book, and I believe that book is on Amazon. You know what? I have all your emails. Okay, good. And my small screen image when I'm speaking. Okay, thank you, Laurie. Before he leaves, I'll ask him for a link so that either I'll share it at the end of today or tomorrow, a link to his book on Amazon. Good. Man, he's very, very loaded. He's really, really out there. Yes, his resources and his contacts. Okay, I'll get that. For collaboration, okay, I'll get that from him. Okay, so let me go back to my PowerPoint. All right, wonderful. So, Auntie Yemi already said earlier today, Miss Ifatoroti said about how we need a new generation of people who have STEM skills because there are so many needs that we have. In fact, if there's anything that, do I say fortunately, unfortunately? Because I actually look at it both ways. It's both fortunate and it's also unfortunate. That has shown us how important it is more than ever. It was this pandemic, how badly we need people with STEM skills. We need a lot of doctors. I'm sure this also showed us that more than ever. We need people who are designers. We need people who are creators. In fact, when they started talking about the respirators at the beginning of the pandemic, a lot of people started sending me messages on WhatsApp, on my Facebook page, on Instagram. Yes, I got messages on Instagram, even my texts, on regular text messages, like, oh my God, you've been talking about this, how important this is. I said, yes. We've been saying the most important thing is to equip our students to be problem solvers. And what we had been predicting, what we had been talking about, played out for the whole world. So here we are. We really, whether we like it or not, more than ever, it's shown us that enough of just rote learning, more about how do we teach solving problems. That's where we need to go now. So whenever I talk about STEM, yes, we'll go over the acronym, but I always like to emphasize that in the middle of STEM is solving problems. That whenever I think about it, I think about the application and I think about how do I utilize all the strengths of those various fields to really solve problems, to really think about how do I change this? What can I do here? I gave an example here that activities that are STEM-based integrates this and then the example I gave here was a block building activity. And I said, if you're learning about the natural world, that's science. And then with the tools I use for measuring, that's technology. People always think of tech as phones, as robots, as laptops, but they fail to understand that what all technology is in the simplest form is just solving problems. That's all it is. And then comparing sizes of blocks, that's mathematics. Okay. Then engineering, solving a problem while you're building, that's engineering. Okay. So these are the various people that are in STEM and STEAM, as some places call it now. which will be art in the middle there to art as one of the arrows, but this is an old slide, so I didn't have art included there. We start with scientists, like that block building activity. Scientists are the ones who investigate the natural world. Tech are people who apply math and science. Engineers, they create what we see around us. And mathematicians, they use patterns, they use numbers, they use logic to solve problems. Okay, so we've already gone over this. Auntie Yemi went over this in great detail. And I want to talk about what we did in Lagos State and how we need to understand that it's all interconnected. You see, the skills that we have, we utilize from STEM, like Auntie Yemi had said earlier, is problem solving, creative thinking, critical thinking. And that was what was utilized during this pandemic when everything was all falling apart, which was what do we do? How do we engage our students? And that's how the radio and the TV stations were deployed to start engaging. Now, he could have just easily said, you know what else do we do? Let's just throw our hands up in the air. But instead of doing that, exploration and brainstorming sessions were held and solutions and ideas came about. That's the kind of mindset that we want our students to have. And that's what we'll be able to do when we inculcate STEM thinking to them. This is a sample of the programming that's going on right now with the radio and TV. If you haven't tuned in, I really, really recommend that you tune in and find out what's going on. It's really good. You know, like anything in life, of course, it's gone through phases, but it's getting better and better. And you'll get, to me, my estimation, it's only going to get really, really fantastic. All right. A lot of the research that I have been doing for the past 1 year before this happened had shown that distance education was inevitable. Whether we liked it or not, it was going to come, because we don't have enough resources to actually build classrooms for every student that needs it. In fact, I remember I wrote an article, I think it was last year or the year before last, for Premium Times. Yes, it was Premium Times. And they were talking about the number of students that were in this province in China and how they were putting all those students together. I've forgotten how many stadiums they will take to occupy all those students. So what they did instead was they utilized, where's my phone? I can't even see my phone. They utilized really simple smartphones, and I believe some radio programming too, to be able to reach some of those students who were in the really rural, distant areas where the data was really spotty. And then the areas where it was not too bad, they used those simple smartphones to engage the students. The teachers put up really simplified lessons, and they were able to reach and teach and work with their students. So like I have here, whether we like it or not, distance education it's here. We cannot run from it. It's a part of the 21st century. And what we found from research during this situation is that teachers actually are able, like I said, I prefer to look at it from the positive than, I know a lot of people are always saying, oh, it's so horrible and it's not a good experience. Let's actually look at the positives around it, okay? A lot of teachers have been able to cooperate with one another using online platforms, Facebook, WhatsApp, Telegram. I think it was a couple of weeks ago, Madam herself, the Honorable Commissioner, was talking about a teacher that engages so many students on Telegram. And other teachers even tapped into, and they come in there and they learn ideas from what she's doing. So imagine this teacher is using Telegram to engage her students, and other educators are also learning from her. And on there, she creates and shares resources. I even know someone that is in Boston who does that, and she has been doing such a fantastic job doing that on Telegram. And my hat's off to her, because Telegram and WhatsApp are not easy platforms. I mean, they are easy, but engaging people consistently and sharing resources, it takes a lot of effort, and you have to be really, really dedicated and driven to do that. And she has been exchanging information and her experiences to them. And they've been working on projects there too. And our teachers are also doing that now. And then we found out for our students too, the benefit is they have learned that they can use tech in their own everyday environment. Some of them, it has also increased their motivation to learn and learning at their own pace. In fact, that's one key thing that I'm happy that has come out from this. Our students needed to learn to be lifelong learners, which means that they should learn that they can't just learn in the classroom alone. They need to also learn wherever. The classroom is anywhere. It can be any place and any time. And then a lot of them have been using wide ranges of educational aids. There's so many things online these days. And they're able to also monitor how much do I know and don't know. And above all, they can ask questions in the sanctity of their homes without being afraid of, oh my God, what are my friends going to think? You know, some children, they have that fear. I'm going to stop sharing so that I can see if anybody has questions very soon, okay? And then I'll come back to the slides again. All right, so our goals for our plan here with Lagos State is institute STEM methodology. I'm going to talk about this in greater depth. And when we're doing that, we're going to support our teachers and support our students through the STEM programs we're going to run. And we're going to create awareness because a lot of people don't really understand. Like Dr. Fabumi had said earlier, a lot of people, when they hear STEM, they just think, oh, it's science, or, oh, they're just teaching math. We want them to understand that it's about solving problems, about application. It's not about how I scored 100% or, oh, I'm so smart. No, it's about, okay, I have this knowledge now. What am I going to do with this? All right, so our plan is to use what we've learned from with research and the best practices we've seen across the world, and then go about creating a vision for it. And then we will implement a curriculum that we put together with our findings, train teachers so that they can be competent, and align assessments around it, and then create materials that will also support the curriculum that we have for these teachers, and make sure that we have the support of our schools, of our stakeholders, our community at large. And then hopefully that drives, and I say hopefully, and I know it will drive improved instruction and all around increased student achievement. That's our goal. Now, I have to include this in here because a lot of times when I talk about skills, a lot of people don't understand. They think it's just math, which is numeracy, or our children just writing very well, which is literacy, or that they know science or math. The skills now have gone way beyond that. If you do want this slide, don't worry, I'll be more than glad to share it later. Okay, you can see there are so many other skills than that. There's financial, there's ICT, there's cultural. These are the ones that Auntie Yemi had mentioned: critical thinking, creativity, communication, and collaboration. We call them the 4 C's. Those are competencies. That's how students approach complex challenges. Then there are character qualities. In fact, the reason I love this is that a lot of times we focus too much on just these guys in the classroom, such as foundational literacies. We forget about competencies, which is what they need when they're in the workplace. We call this quote unquote soft skills. Oops, let me go back. And then we forget about the fact that students are not islands, that they're going to be working with other people, they're going to be living with other people, they're in a community. So we also have to talk about how they approach their environment. And these skills, these qualities come down to those things: curiosity, initiative, persistence, grit, adaptability, leadership, social and cultural awareness. Oh my God, did it again. Okay, so you can see lifelong learning, because you can see it's a loop, is the key at the end. All right, so why is it important that we utilize these skills? Because the way our mind works, Auntie had mentioned metacognition, the way the mind works, the way the mind assimilates knowledge. The way the mind works is for you to remember things and for you to utilize knowledge effectively, and that it will benefit you and benefit society at large. You have to use those higher order skills, not these lower ones, which is just remembering stuff. If you just remember stuff, yeah, that's good, but what good does it really do to everyone? Whereas when you're creating stuff from what you know, what you remember, what you've learned, you're benefiting yourself and you're benefiting everyone around you. So it's actually in, how do you say it? Ascending. It's actually in ascending order. So it's going from remembering, understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, and creating. I'm going to stop here. I'm going to stop here and look at if there are any questions anyone has. And I also wanted to share a story in regards to talking about these skills and why it's important that we focus on skills and not grades, like Mr. Fabumi has said. I'm going to come back to this slide, okay? I promise I'll come back. All right, I've stopped. Let me go back to, yes, okay, good. You can see the screens. Okay, questions before I go back. Okay, so let me share a story about grades and not just, not grades alone, but actually application of skills. Okay. I remember when I was I'm trying to remember which class it was. I think it was biochem. It's either biochem or physical chemistry, one of those courses, yes. And this was in undergrad. I had been in the States by then when I was taking biochem. I think that was my second year. Biochem was either my second year or my third year. Trying to remember carefully. And it's not coming. Yes, biochem was my second year. Okay, good. Organic chemistry, second. Okay, no, it was my third year. Organic chemistry is second year. Okay, see, I had to go over the courses, and that's how I remember. Your first year is chemistry, and that's general chemistry, general physics. And then second year, you now start getting to the harder stuff, which was organic chemistry. And then you now use that to the even harder courses, biochem, physical chemistry. So yes, that was my third year. Third year was biochemistry. Biochemistry is the fusion of understanding the study of life, and now you're applying it to principles in chemistry. So interactions in the human body, interactions around us in our day-to-day lives. And when our professor was carrying out experiments for us, it wasn't just, oh, I taught you this and that's it. She will actually look at real life situations like, okay, what if there was this bug and we wanted to assay, take samples from a sick child to ascertain what illness this child had. What tests would you run in the lab? What do you call them? Oh God, I'm trying to remember now. I need to use the right terminology, guys. Just give me a sec. Let me get it. There are certain tests that we utilize. You know, am I going to use NMR? Am I going? Good, they're coming back to me now. NMR and the others. Some of the others will come back to me. What are you going to use to be able to break down and find out what is in that sample that I've given to you, so that I'll be able to now, in between that, find out what does the child have, what is ailing that child. And you see, at that point, your textbook is not going to save you. Your textbook is not going to save you. At that point, you should already, yes, you should already know whatever he has been teaching you code. Because when I mention NMR, anybody who is a scientist, anybody who's done anything in chemistry automatically knows that means your organic chemistry has to be so sound, so strong, which means you can just run to the lab and say, okay, I'm going to carry out this test, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. It's not that time you're going to start looking for your textbook and start trying to say, okay, let me read this. You're just going to carry that sample and you're going to start running through those tests. Okay, I need to do this step, I need to do this step, I need to do this, I need to do that. I mean, not that you're not going to go back and look at your textbook for references and check this and check that. But what I mean is, that's not the time you're going to start reading your textbook and start trying to say, okay, I need to do this. No. You're going to go cold. You're going to start running. You're going to start moving and doing things. And I remember thinking at that point, I mean, fortunately, like I said, that was my third year. So by then, I'd already been inculcated into the way we were taught science in the US, which is application, the labs. I was explaining to someone the other day how grading is done. And I know Dr. Famumi, had it been he was on, he would say, yes. If this was your grade, these 4 fingers are your grade in the US, I have 4 fingers here. This finger alone, that's a quarter, 1/4 is lab work. That's your practicals. All the rest here is your theory, all the other stuff you're doing in class, blah, 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 blah. This whole finger, this entire finger is your lab work. So imagine if you're not really good, if you do not understand all that the teacher has been teaching and explaining to you, and then when you're in the lab, you're carrying it out, you don't understand that stuff. Even if somehow, by some miracle, you got everything right, which means you got 75% for the rest here. But here, you don't have anything. You're done. There's just no 2 ways about it. You're not going to make it. So do you see why, if you're someone who is just focused on, oh, my grades, and, oh, I did very well, I have a 75, and then you go to the lab and you don't really understand, you're not able to apply, you've lost it. So I'm going to come back to my biochem class. And I remember when she was teaching, I'm not a big fan of biology. That's why I'm not a doctor, by the way. And I remember when she was teaching us about running those assays and running culture, oh God, see, it's coming back now, running those culture specimens. I would just look at this and think, my God, this is so much work, because you have to do it over and over and over and over and over. But I look back now, at the time when I was an intern for a pharmaceutical company, I did that for 1 year. And that 1 year, if that teacher hadn't taught us about running those tests over and over and over, knowing it cold, knowing, okay, these are the, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do a distillation, I'm going to do run this chromatography, by these means, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to use this equipment. If she hadn't run us through that over and over and over, when I was a farm intern, that's a pharmaceutical intern, I would have totally lost it. I would have been like, oh my God, there are too much equipment here. This is driving me crazy. I don't know what to do. But I went in there and I was able to just hit the ground running. Like, wow, bam, I know what to do. I can do this. I can do this. In fact, by the end of the first week, the professor who was in charge of the, what do you call those programs now? Because it was a special project that they were running. It wasn't a Me Too drug, because some of them they create, okay, this drug already, now the patent is about to expire, let's make our own version of that drug too. I don't think it was something like that they were doing. I think it was some kind of specialized medication they were doing. I just can't remember it right now. I even remember his name. His name was Dr. Castellano. The reason I remember his name is that I ran into him when I was a teacher, but that I'll also tell that story too. But anyway, so at the end of that week, he came to me and said, oh my God, I don't know why you're so insistent that you want to be an engineer. I actually believe you should stay here with us and continue. You're really good. You really have your chemistry principles are really sound. Your lab etiquette is on point. You really should continue this. And I told him, no, this is not what I see myself doing. I don't see myself in the lab every day and doing this test and creating medication. This is not what I told myself I was going to be when I was younger. But he said, I really think you should really go back and consider doing this eventually. Now, if my teacher hadn't made us go through the rigor of having our lab work down cold, understanding and applying, and it wasn't about whether you are getting a B or an A, but you really, really got the concept, do you think Dr. Castellano would have come back and said, you know what, I really think you should come and stay with us? And like I said, let me tell you a story of what happened to him when I ran into him years later. So that was, I don't even remember the time period. Do I? When was I with him? Was it 96? Was it that 96 or 97 that I was interning with them? Okay, so 96 or 97. Okay, so let's see, September 11, that was 2001. Okay, I ran into him in 2002. So in 2002, there was a job fair. I was teaching by then. I was still in New York. And I was teaching math. And I went for a job fair because I was like, oh, at that time, I was telling myself, man, this teaching thing, I don't think I'm going to do this for too long. I still want to go back to the field. I want to be an engineer. This is just short term right now. I don't really see myself doing this for too long. And I went in there with my resume, CV, whatever you want to call it. And I go in there and I'm handing it out to different firms or whatever you call them, talking about, oh, this is what I studied when I was in school. This is what I want to do, blah, 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 blah. I'm going around. And I get to their own booth. He wasn't with that lab that I had seen him with. Apparently, he was with another lab at this time. In fact, I've forgotten the name of that lab. They were doing really, really great work. And I went there to go hand them my CV, and guess who I meet? And he recognized me. See, that's when you're good, and always make sure that you leave good impressions too. It's really important. And I'm handing my CV and he's like, oh my God, I know you. And then, he says my name and me too. I'm so excited. I'm like, oh my God, Dr. Castellano, how are you? It's amazing meeting you here. This was on Long Island, by the way, Long Island. I went to one of those SUNY schools when they were having a job fair. SUNY schools are State University of New York. That's the universities that are owned by New York State. And they're really big, by the way, really, really big system. So yes, I was handing him my CV and he said, what are you doing right now? You said you were going to become an engineer. I said, yes, I did go to engineering school and I came out right, I think it was before, yes. I graduated right before September 11. So the economy was really bad, blah, 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 blah. I said, New York State is not the best place for engineers. He said, yes, you should be somewhere like Texas or where else did he mention? Oklahoma, one of those states. What are you doing here? And I said, oh, I live here because my parents, they're in New York too. So I'm here. And he's like, so what are you doing right now? I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm teaching. And he's like, teaching? I said, yes, my parents were lecturers. So just like, you were at one time. And I like teaching, but I also want to go back in the field because I want to also apply and gain some experience. He's like, yes, I remember I told you that you should come and join us. He said, you know what? I'm repeating it again. Come, Come and meet us and come and be a part of what we're doing. I'm thinking, no, I really still don't want to be in the lab running assays and running codes. No, I don't want. But I didn't say it to him. I just said, you know what, sir, I really, really still want to gain experience as an engineer. Maybe, I don't know, maybe sometime, maybe I might think about that, but I'm not really sure if I want to do that. And we're just talking about that before I left. I'm saying all this to reiterate what Dr. Pambumi said and how I would love us to shift our focus when we're teaching our children away from just teaching them facts and more teaching them theories. Sorry, not theories, teaching them ideas and connecting it to what happens in the real world. Okay, so someone had asked about improving STEM curriculum. Let me give you an idea of the way you could also think about doing that. Okay, I want to get this specific. Yes, how can STEM education be improved? Very good. How do you work on improving delivery to our students? It really comes down to this. You need to stop just giving them facts and have them start working on projects. I'm sure if he had been given enough time, he will have alluded to this as he was speaking. Dr. Famimi will have alluded to this. Less about just giving them materials. Okay, guys, go and learn this, go and read this. More about, okay, I've taught you this. Now, how are you going to solve this problem? Let me give an example of how the whole world is moving towards that. Two examples, actually. I'm going to start with the first one. I have another mentor too, who I also need to be in touch with too, now that I think about it. He is a professor at the University of Delaware. And he said he stopped giving exams to his students. What he does now is he gives them projects and he tells them, okay, I'm going to give you 3-5 days. He's also an engineer. So he's a professor in engineering, really, really top notch. He went to his first degree is from Unilag here. And he said, I don't give them exams anymore. I just say, guys, this is this project, you guys go solve this. So, because he said any exam I give them, they can always find the answers on Google. Everything's on Google now. But if I give them this project and say, guys, I want you to go solve this, I want you to go think, then they're going to use whatever I've taught them, whatever we've been discussing in class, they're going to now apply that knowledge to thinking about, wow, how are we going to go about doing this? And he said, that's when I'll be able to really assess properly that they truly understand what I've taught them. And I found out that he's right. As an educator for the past, wow, I'm clocked over 20 years now, right? Yes, over 20 years as an educator. I found out that a test is not a truth. It doesn't really assess anything. It's a joke. A test is a joke. Anybody can just regurgitate and spit it out to you. Or if they're not feeling well that day, then they don't give you any information. Whereas if you give them a project, you're really going to say, they really understand what I'm teaching them now. That's the first example. The second one I have, apart from Prof, was also a personal experience too of not just giving rote knowledge, but actually going back. The first time I taught, I'm trying to remember, no, it wasn't quadratics. What subject was this now? Oh, sorry, what topic was this? And it's one that students always struggle with. Why is it not coming to me right now? Anyway, it will come back. I know it had to do with math. It wasn't quadratic. What's that one they always struggle with all the time? Was it in geometry? I think it was in geometry. Okay, I'll come back. But let me just think, okay, bingo, it just came. Middle school, yes. One area that students always struggle with a lot is circumference of a circle. I don't know what it is, and that's middle school. I don't know what it is about the circumference of a circle. It gets them confused between that and then diameter, which is the physical measure of the circle itself, and then circumference, which is that, they get it confused. And what I did was, instead of just coming and parroting formulas, just like we normally do all the time, we carried out an investigation. I gave them various objects, circular objects. Yes, my favorite tape measure that I always mention, or rulers. You can use rulers too. But I like the tape measure because it's a lot more flexible. And we measured various circular objects. And what's pi? Because remember, they're related using the pi formula. They're related using that pi ratio. And then they use that pi ratio. And then we went around exploring the various circumferences of those various objects. And let me tell you, any child that has sat down and actually used that tape measure around each of those objects, found out the diameter, found out the radius through those methods, do you think they're going to ever forget, oh, okay, this is what circumference means? No. Whereas if I had just said circumference is pi d or 2 pi r, I mean, yes, that's easy too, but it's also easy to forget too. It's easy, but it's also easy to forget. Whereas them carrying out that activity or sitting down and actually investigating, going around and measuring those various objects, the students never forget. I remember the areas that they always focus on the most, and I'm sure it's the same here in Nigeria too, for JSS and what's the other one? WAEC, that a lot of the exam in mathematics is always measurement. It's the same over there too. But instead of me just teaching formulas, I like to do a lot of investigations and explorations because I find that that's how the students remember the formulas and understand the concepts a lot better. And that works for me. It's the same in the sciences too. I could go and say, let me teach you about electrochemistry just by speaking. Whereas if I bring in some really diluted acid, well, they have coins over there in the States. I bring in coins, I bring in, what do you call it? Paperclip, coin, pencil. I can easily teach you about electrochemistry. Really cheap utensils, I can teach you. And you'll never ever forget about electroplating. Okay, this is how this goes to the cathode, this goes to the anode, and this is how the ions travel. You'll never forget all that because you've actually seen me demonstrate it before you. I think there's an adage that even goes with that too, that if you tell me, I might remember, but if you show me, but if I actually do it, then I'll actually keep it forever. Okay, so let me look at some comments. I might go back to the screen, PowerPoint or not, but let's see. All right, yes. Do you envision, okay, some questions are here. With a post-COVID environment, do you envision STEM programs that have the goal to reach students at the global level? Yes. Why not? By us sharing this, by us carrying out investigations, which we should be able to start doing for our students, why not? Why can it not go on a global level? In fact, let me tell you about something that we are working on behind the scenes. I'm sure a lot of us know the Smithsonian Museum, the biggest museum in the entire world in Washington, D.C. there. Right now, they're working with educators all across the world, talking about what's it called, COVID-19, the pandemic, and how it affects our students, and how do they protect themselves. And here they are, they're in Washington, D.C. We're here in Lagos. The other day, I was on their Zoom virtual meeting. They had educators from Rwanda, Egypt, who else? What do they call that place in Russia? Uzbekistan or something like that. I think there was another person. Was it the UK? No, it wasn't the UK. Croatia, one of those places in the Baltic states. Yes. So they had people from all over Turkey. Someone was also from Turkey too. They had all these people from all these different nations tuned into that Zoom meeting. And they were telling them, we've come up with these resources, we've created this guidebook. We really think it will be of benefit to you science educators. You can use it to show them the relevance of what you've been teaching in science now with what's happening with them in the real world. And they went over these various tasks the educators and parents, that's what I loved about the guidebook, and parents could use to explain the science behind it. And they had there were two meetings around this. And the more I listened and saw what they were, when they were going over the guidebook and discussing it, the more I said, my God, this is amazing. I can't wait for us to see how we can also bring this here in Lagos. And they've even started translating it in those nations too. I remember in Kenya, I think they've translated to Swahili. I can't remember which other African nation has also translated. Okay, no, of course, it's already translated to Arabic. That goes without saying, and French. So yes, it was just amazing that here they are in Washington, D.C., and yet people are grabbing what they have from all across the world. So why not? There's nothing stopping us. We've seen now that knowledge can be distributed easily and fast. So why not? Okay, let's see. What other questions? Auntie, thank you very much. Auntie says, yes, there's a need to, Auntie Atujo says there's a need to promote STEM. Yes, Mrs. Bakari, I agree. Application is a means of assessment. That's why we call them, what do we call them in the US? We call them portfolios. And it's under project-based learning, and then we give them projects, and then they bring back their portfolios with their work, and we grade it. So, okay, good. Yes, thank you, Damilola. for reminding me of the adage. What I hear, I forget. Very good. What I see, I remember. What I do, I understand. Good. Let me repeat that again. It's really good. It says, what I hear, I forget, which we all do. What I see, I remember. What I do, I understand. Very good. Very good. So that's it. That's the adage. Okay, any other questions? I think I might, let me see how much of the slide is left. Did post-COVID. Okay, I had some websites. Okay, let me go back then. I'll share the screen real briefly. Okay, so whenever I think of carrying out STEM activities, I like to encourage our educators whenever I'm at events that you go online, you look for really easily deployed, very cheap activities that you can carry out, and always start with something that interests the students. Dr. Fabumi mentioned that same thing. Always start with what interests them. I like to mention things about cars because I know students like cars. I like to talk about things that have to do with movies. A lot of our students love movies. Music is another thing that they're interested in. And Laurie is going to be talking about the intersection between science, which, remember, STEAM, arts. We've infused it now into STEM too. And that's music. She's going to be talking about that tomorrow. So we use all these different methods to, bring out the joy and the interest that our students have in what we're teaching. It's really important. Okay, I'm going to share that and then I'll hand over to our next speaker. I'm running over. Oh my God. Let me do that real quick. Let's see, where was I? And here we go. Share screen. Let me go back to share screen real quick so that he can go next. Application window. And here we go. Okay, so I created this activity called My Dream Car. This was something that I did with my students when I was teaching our equivalent of what we call JSS in the US, which is middle school. And a lot of them like to talk about the cars that they like. Oh, this is my dream car. I like this. I want this. I want that. So I was teaching them the math around it. And, whenever we teach, I like for us to always involve elements of research because it's very important for students to learn how to go and find information for themselves. So you'll notice that I said, choose your car, search online. I told them to do things like that. Picture of your car, that's all research. And then I have various prices here so that they can learn about agency, taking ownership of themselves. Okay, I made this decision, I'm going to get this. Does it work? Does it not work? Why not? You're not the one just force feeding them. This is what you must do. This is what you have to do. Because the world doesn't work that way. You're not going to be with your students wherever they are. When I send you this slide, you can always adopt it. You can type it out, change and tweak it anyhow you want, okay? And then I also share some STEM website resources. These are some of the websites that I found over the years that have really, really, really good material. I have more than this. I can't fit everything into here. If I wanted to, this entire presentation will be more than 75, 80 slides because I would just keep sharing. So if you want more links, I'll be more than glad to. I have so many. In fact, I don't even know how many documents I have that have links. It's that bad because I'm constantly always researching and finding new activities, new ideas to try out. The point I'm trying to make is invest time in going online. Like I said, this is the best time to be an educator. A lot of things are online for you to find for your students. Okay, thank you so much for listening to this. I hope this has made you think a little bit more. And I hope you see that there are so many things that we're going to be doing, hopefully here in Lagos State for our educators and our students. Okay, so questions before we leave, or before I leave, I will say, because I want to hand over to our next speaker. Let me bring him on. Oh Lord, I don't think he's on. I'm gonna have to send him a message and tell him to come online. He was online, I saw him on earlier. He must have just stepped. Oh, wow. Okay. Someone is trying to get on and she says she's not able to get on. I'll take care of that. Okay, so let me address getting our others. Okay, good, he's back. Okay, so let me get him on. I don't see any questions. If there are any questions, you can just send them to the email address I used to register and they'll get them across to me. I just want you to understand that there are so many things that we want to do. My thing is, please be open to trying out these ideas when we do share them in the media, when we do create these outreaches, when we do create this call that, guys, we're doing this, we're doing this. Please be willing, please be open to coming on board. I think our YouTube.
Here are the top search results.
Oh Lord, sorry about that. Okay, our YouTube is back on. Woof, it went off for a while. It just came back on. Very good. Okay, so let me add our last speaker for the day, and welcome.
Hello.
Are you on? Are you live?
Yeah, I'm live. I never
Yes,
left.
I can't hear you.
I
Okay,
muted
good,
my
you're
mic and my camera so that I won't
Oh,
so I
you
won't
muted
interrupt
it.
your. Yeah, I muted. So I was screaming that I'm online, but you
Oh,
couldn't
no,
hear
no,
me.
no, no, no.
Good evening, ma'am.
Okay, Laurie, thank you so much. You said, yes, Laurie said she loved hearing my stories. Thank you, Laurie. I have so many stories. You know how we educate us, how we can keep talking and talking and talking. Okay, so I'm going to hand over to Ademola. He is another person who is really passionate about skilling up our youth here in Nigeria. In fact, the first time I saw him was on Facebook talking about innovation, how important it was. And I was floored because I'm like, wow, somebody who is young, who gets it and is so passionate and loves this. In fact, I started sending him messages, we started talking, and that was it. So please pay attention to a lot of what he's going to share. I hope, like what Dr. Pambumi had said, action points. I hope you're able to take back action points later. This video will be shared. The broadcast link will be, oh, thank you so much, Kenneth. Thank you, Pastor Francis. Thank you so much. Pastor Francis has joined us. Yay. Okay. We're going to share the broadcast link from YouTube. So you can go back on your own and watch it and share with your friends. Look, the key thing, guys, is this. Rome was not built in a day. See those places that we admire so much, like Dr. Famimi was saying, like China, India. In fact, let me not even talk about China, because China started in the 50s and the 60s and the 70s. India is the one that I can focus on because everything about them, population, the culture, there's a lot of similarities with us. But yet, look at the number of billionaires they have in China. Look at how many institutions, because it's not just universities alone, institutions that are in India right now. They've just done amazing stuff there. And the reason why I'm picking on them is because when I was in school in the 90s, when I mean school, undergrad in the 90s, I was in school with a lot of the students who left the US and went back to India with the ideas of what they saw in the US. Yes, to say, you know what, I want to go back. In fact, let me tell you a story, one more story, then I'll run. I had this student, well, he was a student. He's not my student, classmate. I should call him classmate. I think it's I can't remember his name right now. Is it a Johnny or a Johnny? It's not one of those names. And he was also a chemical engineer too, like me. And his internship was at Intel. Was it Intel? Anyway, one of those tech companies. And by the time he finished that internship and the way he parlayed himself, he got a H1 visa with one of those tech companies. Really, really good one. I can't remember them. I don't think it was Microsoft. It was a fantastic offer. H1 visa, which means he had a job and then they will gradually, change his visa for him to be able to stay in the US. He turned it down.
Wow.
He turned down that offer. He turned down the visa. He turned down that offer. You know what he told me? He said, I want to go back to India. I want to take all that I'm learning here. I want to go there. Do you know that I didn't keep in touch with him, unfortunately. But I believe with all my heart that whenever I see stories about millionaires and billionaires in India, I have no doubt in my heart that that man is one of them. You know why I believe that? Even when we were in school, he was always thinking about, oh, how can we utilize this? How can I change this? How can I do this? Oh, I want to take this back to India. Every time he'll always say that. I want to take this back to India. I want to take this back to India. And I used to look at him like, yeah. But he did. He took it back to India. And I'm sure right now, because this is how many years later? Over at least 20 years, right? Yeah. I'm sure he's definitely a millionaire now. I don't know about billionaire, but definitely a millionaire, because for you to have been taken to those tech companies, Intel, one of those places, yes, trust me, you're so smart. You are able to parlay a lot of skills, and people too will be attracted to you. Okay, you have this. Okay, let's do this. Particularly that time. Even now, what am I saying? Even now. So yeah, that was something. You wouldn't have turned that down. And look at what they did. They utilized all the lessons that they learned in the US. They went back to their nation and look at what they've turned their country to. I was sharing the other day at a conference that I was in. I said, normally in the past, it was always us waiting for the Prime Minister of UK. Oh, sorry, it was always us going to, when I say us, like developing nations, India, Nigeria, Ghana. We are the ones who go there and wait for the Prime Minister to go and see her. It was reversed. The Prime Minister of the UK, I think it was Theresa at that time, Theresa May, she left the UK and went to India to go and shake his hand and talk to him and listen to him. Why did she do that? Because they're an economic powerhouse. Even Obama went and was shaking their hands. And
in fact, today, most of the top companies in Silicon Valley, they have Indian CEOs. You talk of Google, Windows, and they are doing fantastic jobs, doing fantastic. You have Satya Nadella at Microsoft. In fact, that man is a genius. From nothing, like Microsoft was written off. Microsoft was the Microsoft was the joker of the tech world, and he just came there, hit hard. He got on board in 2014, and so the Microsoft has crossed the $1 trillion mark. So I mean, the results speak for themselves. It's clear. So anybody that wants to see.
And it's not just tech. It's not just tech. I just remember this lady that used to be
of course.
CEO Pepsi.
Yeah, it's everything. It's not. I'm just.
Yes, Pepsi. Yeah, Pepsi wasn't too far from our house in New York. Yes, she was Indian. What's her name? Oh God, it will come to me too. I can't remember her name right now, but it's someone that I greatly admire too. Pepsi was really close to our house where we were in New York. I know you know what I'm talking about. She's brilliant.
Yes.
You see
I can't get the name right.
Take the learning, what they are doing in the US, and they go back and look at what they do. That's what Dr. Fabumi is trying to do. That's what Ademola wants to try to do here in Nigeria. And that's what we want you educators. We want you parents to try and do with your children here too. So I'm going to hand over to him. And please be typing your comments and your questions, okay? And yes, this is recorded. We'll be sharing this because I know a lot of people are in traffic, are on the go, so they can't join us. Believe me, in fact, I know that I'll turn out because our registrants were a lot. I'm even looking at my screen. I'm seeing more and more people still registering. It's amazing.
Amazing.
Should I be pleasantly surprised? Yes, I'm serious. I'm looking at it now. That's 5 more people just registered again. So you can imagine 5.
Interesting.
So we've crossed the mark that I was even telling you earlier today. So yes.
Nice.
I know people are going to want this link. So it's recording on YouTube right now. They're archiving it. We'll share it. I'm going to hand over to him. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Auntie Tola. I call her Auntie Tola, don't mind me. I would have gone for Miss Salau. But if I did that, how would you know I'm of Yoruba origins? As a Yoruba man, one of the ways we show respect is by calling people daddies and mommies and aunties and uncles. So it's a cultural thing, right? Of course, calling someone auntie doesn't necessarily mean you respect them, but actually have a lot of respect for her in this case. So, good evening, everybody. My name is Ademola Morebise, and it's really great. I'm really happy to be here with you this lovely evening on this virtual conference. So let's just start, right? We've had a fantastic time so far. I've had a wonderful time personally. I've been online engaged. I've been listening to all the facilitators so far, awesome presentations, and I've learned so much. So I'll just, of course, there's no to rehash what they've said. I hope, can you hear me, please? Let me check the chat. I hope I'm audible. Can you hear what I have to say? Can you hear me, please? Am I audible? Am I still audible? Yes, I'm audible. All right. Okay. So I'm saying that, so fantastic presentations by everybody that has spoken today, and hopefully I can also have 1 or 2 thoughts to add to what has been shared so far. So the theme of this STEM conference says STEM the Equalizer, setting the education threshold for a post-COVID-19 relevance and significance in Africa. STEM the Equalizer, setting the education threshold for a post-COVID-19 relevance and significance in Africa. And for me, what stood out for me when I got the theme of the conference, what stood out for me was post-COVID-19, right? Because, people have started, the experts and futurists and all these guys, they're projecting something now. Some people are predicting, right, that the impact of this coronavirus pandemic might be as severe, as serious as when you say BC AD, BC before Christ, AD. It's a landmark that can just make a clear distinction between past and present times, right? And I tend to agree mostly, right? The coronavirus episode has really transformed everything that we are doing, right? It has been really, really disruptive. It has been really, really, it has been massive for all of us. So when you talk about the post-COVID-19 world, some of the things we've seen now, right, is right now the death of travel, the death of location, as it were. For many years, technology has been rendering your physical location irrelevant. COVID-19 struck the final blow to that shift. COVID-19 just final blow to the head. And when you talk about location now, previously, when you get on calls with people, after 2 or 3 sentences, next thing is, when can we meet, right? When can you stop by at my office and things like that. But today now, people are quick to suggest, can we have a Zoom meeting? Can we discuss over Zoom? Can we discuss over a WhatsApp video call and things like that? Yeah, there was a day, due to some unforeseen circumstances, I could not meet up an engagement, and I suggested to the host, look, can we have a video call or something? The person said, how will I have a video call with you? The person felt it was disrespectful for me to suggest that we have a video call. And I was like, look, there's no big deal in all of these things. So COVID-19 now has forced Nigerians, right? COVID-19 has forced Africans. COVID-19 has forced the world to go truly, truly remote. And so you have companies like Twitter, I think Spotify, a lot of these tech companies now, they've announced or they are working on, switching their organizations to remote first, that everybody work remotely. Don't come to the office, stay where you are, and things like that. So this is having a massive effect on the world. I'm talking about the post-COVID-19 world. So one of the fallback of that is you talk of commercial real estate will become more or less useless. Recently I was going through some pictures of New York, and I was looking at the skyscrapers there, all those skyscrapers, all these buildings there with so many floors and floors of workers. Now, guess what? Those buildings are empty, right? Nobody occupies those buildings anymore. And in fact, going forward, the CEO of this top American bank, he made a statement maybe last week or day about. He said, "Look, going forward, I don't think the office, the way we used to know it, is ever going to come back." Right? That's part of the effect of the COVID-19, and it brings to mind someone like there's this woman. They say the woman that built Beijing. You start thinking of people like that and how they're going to respond. How does the effect of COVID-19 on real estate and how that's going to change things for us. This is the era now where we have empty football stadiums, right? The Premiership is back, footballing is back. The stadiums are empty, everybody is forced to watch online, right? And if I'm watching you guys play online, empty, I can't come physically to watch you. How is that different from FIFA, right? Playing these games online. So you get to a point whereby esports and physical sports, that line that separated them was that we could experience one of them live, and we couldn't experience esports live. Now that coronavirus has shut down the physical stadiums, I think that would be big for esports going forward, right? You talk about, travel, right? Travel. The first speaker already shared this thing I was going to share with you. This fact about Zoom, the video conferencing app Zoom is now worth, much more than the top 7 airlines in the world combined together. I'm talking of the big airlines, the Southwest, Delta, United Airlines, all these big airlines, the top 7 combined together. Zoom, at a valuation of around $50 billion, is worth more than these 7 guys combined together. So when I got the theme of the conference, I was fired up, right? Because it's talking about how can we set ourselves, how can we position ourselves for the post-COVID-19 world? How can we ensure that Nigeria, that Africa remains relevant, becomes significant, in the post-COVID-19 world? Because it's obvious to all of us now that there's going to be a massive shift, and now is that time whereby we have to consciously see how we are going to play in that space. But for me, the main thing that COVID-19 has done to us is that COVID-19 has changed the world forever, because for the first time in a very, very long time, we are being forced to think. That's the major shift of the post-COVID-19 world, right? We have been forced to think, right? A lot of you might counter my point and say, Mr. Murebishe, we have been thinking. In fact, I'm a thinker, I've been thinking and things like that. But here's my question. Are you really thinking, or you are thinking that you are thinking? Are you thinking, or you think that you think? For example, if I asked you right now, 1 plus 1, you are going to answer 2, right? Now, that 2, did you think about the answer, or did you mainly regurgitate a pre-recorded response, right? Because when you are being introduced to mathematics, that's the basics, right? 1 plus 1 is equal to 2. So you've seen it 1,000,001 times. 1 plus 1 is equal to 2. So if I ask you today 1 plus 1, you have not really thought about the answer. All you did was to check your database, you checked your mind, right? Pattern recognition. Where have I seen 1 plus 1 before? You've seen it a lot of times, and the acceptable response is 2. So you go 1 plus 1 is equal to 2. Not necessarily because you've thought of the answer, but because you've seen it so often that you know that the correct answer has got to be 2. So for the first time in a very, very long time, we are having to think. We're having to think. And that is why leadership, bad leadership has been really exposed. Post-COVID-19 has exposed bad leadership all across the world. You understand? If I look around me here in Nigeria, we've had a lot of interesting government directives since the COVID-19 thing started, from the lockdown to locking down of religious institutions, locking down bans on large gatherings and things like that, And a lot of times you realize that, certain governments, especially African governments, they tend to simply copy whatever they see the Americans and the Chinese do. That's what they do. All right. Like I said, COVID-19 is forcing us to think. For a long time, we have not had to think. So now that suddenly thinking is important, then people are messing up, right? So, for example, when the America announced that they're going to lock down their economy, lock down society, everybody stay at home and things like that, I got online, I did some research, and I realized that it has been a long time in the works, all right? I'll let you know that after the September 11, 2001 terrorist attacks in America, the president then, that's President Bush, right? He set up, he set up a committee, and he gave them a simple task. He said, what kind of disasters can happen to on American soil, and how do we respond to things like this? One of the scenarios they gave him was a pandemic, right? Or if a pandemic happens, what do we do? So they funded the research, and they came back with the answer that if you during a pandemic, if the schools are locked down, it will help prevent, it will help reduce, to considerably reduce the rate at which things spread and things like that. So they had original thinking. They did their research, they documented it, and it sat down there for many years. In 2020 now, something happens that they just go there into the archives, pick it up and implement that document. And that is as simple as that. So African governments, they hear about that and they just go and they copy it overnight, right? No original thinking. There is no, you didn't really think about it. You just go there, copy and paste, and, and you feel you are doing something, when it's obvious to some of us that, this is not the way things ought to go, right? So COVID-19 is forcing us to think, original thinking, in a way we've never done before. There's this interesting story that was shared with me. They said there was this Russian guard that was being assigned to a particular part of the castle, and they report there every day. They rotate the guards and all that. Then one day, I said, why exactly do we assign a guard to that area? What are they protecting? And they said, it's not clear what we are protecting. And then they said, okay, let's ask questions. What are you guys protecting? The guy says, there's nothing physically there that I am protecting. So they checked the archives. Then they went back about maybe 200 years, right? 200 years. And they discovered that, about 200 years ago, a young girl that happened to be the daughter of the monarch at that time planted a rose out in the park. And it's late at night. They want her to get inside, but she wouldn't leave. because she was afraid that something was going to come and destroy the rose, right? And so the dad said, you know what? I'm going to assign a guard here to watch over your rose for you. And that was what the dad did. So since then, a guard has always been stationed to watch over the rose. Now the rose has long gone. All the principal players are long gone, right? But that instruction, that command, right, has gone nowhere, all right? They still need to, they still go there every day. They assign a guard there every single day, and the guard goes there to safeguard a rose that is no longer existing. And that is what I'm saying about thinking. So for 100 years, we've not asked ourselves original questions. For 100 years, we've not done much original thinking. So post-COVID-19 is pushing us squarely into that era where we have to think, we are being forced to think. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is our advantage, all right? As Africans, I feel our advantage for the post-COVID-19 relevance is that for the first time, we need to think, and thinking is to our advantage. And the reason is because thinking is an equalizer. All right, thinking is an equalizer. The quality of your output from the labors of thinking is not a function of your wallet, your nationality, the color of your skin, and all those things we associate with privilege. Right. The thing about thinking is that it's a function, all right? The quality of your thoughts is a function of the states of your being, all right? The state of your being is what would let us understand, right, the quality of what's going on within you. So thinking is an equalizer, and I want us to understand that and realize the implication of that. That if thinking is an equalizer, that means suddenly Africans have the same chance as any other person. We have the same chance as any other nations out there. All right. So there's this shift basically globally. All right. Globally, there's this shift. If you go through some of the research that have been done at global institutions like the World Economic Forum and at LinkedIn and things like that, you would realize that the top skills in the world now that you need to succeed in this decade going forward is creativity, complex problem solving, critical thinking. These are three things that also has been emphasized over and over again by my predecessors, those that spoke before me at this wonderful STEM conference, right? Those skills are really, really important. So here's the thing. When we're talking about STEM in Africa, I want us to also understand something. I want us to understand is the fact that, you see, we have to rethink from the bottom up, right? We have to, it takes there needs to be a shift, right? There needs to be this shift, there needs to be this, there needs to be this bottom up innovation. From the grassroots, you rebuild upwards. That is the scope. That's what I think really needs to happen. So the schooling system we have in, I'll just say Western Africa, right? Let me say Western Africa. So the schooling system we have in Western Africa, for example, was built, right, to service the civil service and industries, right? The education system we have, the education system that we've maintained and structured till now was built for the previous centuries. It was not built for the 21st century that we now occupy, right? So our school system was built for the industrial era. It wasn't built for this 21st century. And we now we are forced to consider, what's the difference, right? What's changes and all that. So what's going on? Here's the thing, right? When you talk about the industrial era was marked by job creation because you needed thousands of people you need thousands of bodies to physically man, different spots on your factory's assembly line. So you produce something, you are producing something in your factory, making some widget or whatever it is you do. You needed people to be there around the clock doing those things. So school was a way to supply the factory with raw materials, right? Or you say talent, right? Schools was meant to supply the factories with talent. And when you talk about factory, what makes a factory, right? A factory is a place where you mass produce a particular product. So when you talk about, and these are things I've researched, right? when you talk of factories, the father of they call it scientific management, right? These are things that were pioneered by American industrialists like Ford, right? Henry Ford. Henry Ford pioneered these ideas of, let's build an industry, let's mass produce things and things like that. So when we mass produce, we need people that have been trained to behave in a particular way. So before the 21st century, if you were going to succeed in this life, you needed to be competent and efficient. That was the word. And if you go back, if you travel back through time and look at marketing messages, you look at how jobs have evolved, you look at how society has evolved, you're going to find that trait there, that society, the industry, academia itself, they supported mass production of people so that they can go to the factories and continue mass production. But guess what? It's 2020 now, and the key word now is creativity and innovation. If you go through industry requirements now, you go through marketing, academia, these days it's always about, creativity, innovation, invention, what new ideas are you bringing to the table and things like that, right? So you want to project an innovation. That's the key word in this century, right? And that is why STEM is the equalizer, right? So we started from thinking as an equalizer, because every man can think. Just because you are not thinking does not mean you do not have the capacity and the ability to think. It only means you've decided not to think. So deciding not to think does not mean that you do not have the ability to think. Really as simple as that, right? All right. Then I also want to draw your attention to the fact that STEM is the equalizer, because this century is going to be marked by, there's a shift from efficiency and competence to creativity and innovation, right? And this has been made even more glaring by the post-COVID-19 pandemic, right? So if there's one thing COVID-19 showed the nations of the world, is the fact that we don't spend enough on research. We don't spend enough on scientific research. We're not spending enough money on scientific research. We're not funding scientists. We're not funding thinkers. We're not funding people that can come up with new ideas, creative solutions, innovative ideas that can beat whatever we have out there. So that is a major challenge that I know we need to also address. And we need to emphasize this, and I'm so happy my predecessors have done a great job on this. So I don't have to really emphasize this point again. STEM is not about memorizing facts and figures, all right? STEM education is about training the mind to think in a certain way. STEM is not about memorization of facts and figures, right? STEM is about training the mind to think. And when we talk about thinking, so we go into the subject of critical thinking, right? And when it comes to critical thinking, there are about 4 levels of critical thinking, right? Long story short, we need to go beyond knowledge acquisition and get to that place whereby we learn how to apply this knowledge. You start from acquisition of knowledge, you move on to comprehension. Do you comprehend? Do you understand this knowledge? And when the answer is in the affirmative, that you do understand these things, right? The next will now be, how can you synthesize these things? How can you apply this thing? How can you do an analysis? These are the problems we are facing in the society, and these are the ways we can, these are the ideas I have, that's the way going forward. So it's not just about memorizing, right? It's not about memorizing and saying, okay, water is made up of hydrogen and oxygen. Like I said, a lot of people, we don't think, but we think, right? So post-COVID-19 was going to expose the new thinkers. And so if Africa has ever had a chance, right, this is the time, because guess what? The playing field is now level. I was watching a presentation by Dr. Kaku. He's a theoretical physicist based in New York, I think, right? Was talking about, the fact that any nation that has the internet, they are wealthier than nations that do not have the internet. And I'm grateful that, we might not have broadband internet in Africa, but at least a decent internet penetration in Africa is better, way better than what it used to be. We're no longer at 0%. At least we are able to get online. And once you are online, that's an equalizer also. So thinking equalizes us, STEM equalizes us, having access to modern conveniences like the internet has made this thing equal. So these days, anybody from anywhere can go online and get information on anything at all that catches their fancy, anything at all that catches their imagination. They can just go out there and get the latest information, get the latest thinking on those things, because that's what we need in order to drive ahead. So bringing it home now, because I see that my time is fast spent, right? Bringing it home, right? I want to put it this way, okay? I believe strongly that that this century is Africa's century, right? This is a thought that has been pioneered by a lot of people, a lot of great thinkers, great researchers. You know, they've checked the demography, checked the global trends, and they seem to agree, that, if Africa can get its act in order, if as Africans, if we can, as Africans, if we can get these things together, because we have the advantage of a young population. Africa has one of the youngest demographics in the whole world, based on the data available to us. So we have the demograph, we have the knowledge, and we are at a critical point in our existence whereby we are poised, right? We are set to take the world by storm. What we need to do is to take the initiative. Already you see a massive shift now. American companies are trying to get into Africa. The Chinese are trying to get into Africa. The Africans are yet to, they have the option of, picking up the slack and trying to do something about since they are passionate about in the very first place. So we have this raw creativity in Africa that we've not really explored. And frankly, the reason why we've not explored it is simply because STEM principles have not been understood. Please, I'm not saying they've not been taught, all right? They've been taught for many years, but like I pointed out, they were taught with the mindset of, I'm teaching you so that you can get a job as also factory where you are going to just press a button and move something from the conveyor belt to the next conveyor belt, right? But in 2020 now, with the rise of robotics, with the rise of technology such as artificial intelligence, neural networks and all that, the amount of human beings that we need in factories has drastically reduced. And that's why, going forward, we understand that commercial real estate is not going to be what it used to be. All right. Nowadays, so many of you now, you start working from home. The schools have not been reopened in my part of the world, for example. So for about 3 months now, schools have been forced to, start improvising, coming up with different ideas on how they can continue to deliver education without the classes, right? Without the schools, without the classes, without all of these things. And these things, it really gladdens my heart because, like I said, it's forcing us to think. For a long time, we've not had to think. Now, coronavirus has forced us to go and think. And STEM is the equalizer. It's going to equalize everybody. If you can get STEM principles in your heart, if you can understand it, not just knowing it, not just comprehending it now, but get into that place of understanding so that you can get into that place where you can synthesize the knowledge you have, come up with new things, borrow ideas from this industry, take ideas from the other industry, bring it together in a neat package. That is what is going to be rewarded going forward. The other day, I read an hilarious article. The article was very hilarious. They said American robots were losing their job to European robots, And when I read the full story, they said Adidas, the popular German sportswear manufacturer, was moving certain jobs, was moving a factory from America back to Germany. And of course, the jobs in the factory are mostly automated. So the automated factory is moving from America, moving over to Germany. So the actual job loss is minimal, negligible, but the robots will now be doing the thing in Germany. So, going forward post-COVID-19, you have technology, 3D printing is coming on strong. In the near future, you can just design something, load it online, press the print button, and you've printed your idea, going from thought to idea in a few hours, as opposed to nowadays that you go, you have a long ideation process, so expensive for you to get a prototype now. In the future, with 3D printing, it will be very easy for anybody to conceive an idea, and you can get that idea produced in mere hours. In fact, I used to tell my people that work with me, I say, I look forward to a future whereby I wake up early in the morning, at 5 a.m. I have an idea, and I walk up to my computer system, I hook up the device, I punch in the idea as much as I can, then I walk away, and 3 hours later, when I'm having breakfast at 7:30 or 8 a.m., as the case may be, right, my phone rings and it's my AI assistant telling me, Mr. M, your prototype is ready. So I throw back, to the machine there, and right there, I can hold what I was thinking about in 2 hours earlier. I cannot hold it in my hands. It's that crazy. So long story short, that is the world we are going into post-COVID-19. And if we take STEM seriously, STEM is the equalizer, STEM is the bridge that's going to take us there. For these things to happen, we need to start with a fundamental rethink of what education is supposed to do. And we need to learn how to place a premium on education. As far as I'm concerned, the Nigerian society, the African society, we are still full of, mediocres and illiterates. We have certified illiterates, right? We have people that have multiple PhDs, multiple certificates, but they are still illiterates, right? All they have is knowledge that they don't comprehend, knowledge that they don't understand enough in order for it to become wisdom, right? Wisdom is a focused form of knowledge. Knowledge is all over the place these days, thanks to the proliferation of digital platforms, especially Google Search, ResearchGate, all these online platforms where you can access knowledge. Knowledge is no longer the problem, all right? The problem now is who can synthesize this knowledge into new forms for us to use. But Nigerians, we don't yet have the proper approach to knowledge acquisition. And that is something that baffles me a lot. There's this popular hashtag on social media. They say school is a scam, and I've worked so hard to see how we can get something else to trend. For example, I should get a PhD, right? In 2020, we are still having to convince people of the need for them to get a PhD in their areas of endeavor, because beyond just STEM at the junior levels, middle school, aka JS classes, SS class, and all that, beyond STEM at that level, right, we need to emphasize the need for people to commit to getting an education to the level of PhDs. That is the way we can see our society. When someone says Bill Gates is a dropout, Steve Jobs didn't go to school and things like that, it tells me more about their state of mind as to the real nature of education and knowledge. So we need to have that sensitization program. We need to let people know that they need to commit to getting an education. I'm going to tell you why. All right. Now, when you tell me that Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, let me give you an example. Bill Gates didn't go to school, he dropped out and is doing fine. I want to remind you something. All right. Bill Gates, right, grew up in a literate society. There's a difference between someone that is street smart and they have much formal schooling, trying to get things done in a literate society, right? And you that you are growing up in an illiterate, this is an illiterate society, right? This is an illiterate society. We have certificates, but we don't have an education. And I need to emphasize this well enough. I need to have an idea of the time. I don't know how much time I have left. But anyway, I'm nearly done. I'll just round it up here, right? This is like my final point. All right. So we need to push and pioneer a need for people to get an education. We need to push and pioneer the idea that the industrial era is gone. The buzzword in the industry today, the buzzword in academia today is creativity and innovation. It's no longer enough to be efficient and competence. Our schools today are built for efficiency and competence. We want you to be competent so that when we get to industry, you understand how to operate the devices there. We don't need you to come up with new ideas. There's only one person doing all the thinking, and that's our guy at the top, all right? The CEOs do the thinking. At the C level, the C executive, they do all the thinking for the organization. Every other person just come in and do as you are told, right? That era is gone. Machines do that now, all right? So what we need now is people that can really understand, right, and synthesize all of these things together, bringing in new ideas that can really drive things forward. So if we are serious about, it's Africa century, we want to move things ahead and all of that, we need to understand that a scientific evolution will precede a wave of creativity and invention. What we have going for us right now as Nigerians, as Africans, what we have going for us right now is our natural creativity. I call it raw creativity, all right? We have raw creativity that has not been trained. Creativity blossoms when you have knowledge And knowledge is something that we've not placed, hitherto we've not placed the premium on knowledge, especially within Nigerian circles, right? Like I said, it's more or less an illiterate. As far as I'm concerned, yes, we have certificates. I'm not arguing that we have certificates. Like every year we issue certificates at different levels of education, but we do not have a literate society. That needs to happen first. If you go back, I've read some stuff, did some research. How did America become America today? How did Europe become Europe today? You realize that there was a scientific revolution before the industrial revolution. That is why STEM is key. We need to lay that foundation of STEM from the grassroots to PhD level. We need to ring that bell. School is not a scam. If we want to have a better future than our parents had, if we want to have a better future than we ever had a chance to do, STEM is the way. STEM is the equalizer. Thinking is the equalizer. STEM is the equalizer. Having an understanding of these processes will get us, there and things like that. So I want you to understand these things, and these are the critical thoughts that I think I have enough time to share with you. I can see our host is back, which means my time is up. But I think I've covered the major things I also want to cover. Things like this, she knows I can go for the next 3 days, just talking. But hopefully you got some value, let me check the chat. Hopefully you got some value for what I shared with you, okay, there's no, okay, so yeah, creativity. So basically, our school system, was built for efficiency and competent workers for an industry, but that industry is no longer there. It's no longer there. The industry has been automated. Thanks to AI, thanks to advancement in robotics, the industry is no longer there. If you check Tesla Motors, Tesla is a modern car company. You check what they're doing in their factory, is mostly automated. You don't need human beings standing on the conveyor belt, picking something here to the other. No longer. So everybody needs to think. And I'm so happy, I'm so grateful to God that COVID-19 has forced everybody into thinking mode. Yes. COVID-19 has forced us to answer questions that have not been asked in 100 years. Nobody has asked questions in 100 years. We just repeat what we've been told. That 1 + 1 is equal to 2. That's what we've been doing for many years now. But finally now you get to a season whereby 1 + 1 is no longer necessarily equal to 2. So you are forced to come up with some serious ideas. So I believe strongly in my heart that this century can be Africa's century, but we have to move fast. We have to lay a foundation of STEM. STEM is the equal. When I saw the team, I said, no, A+. This is this team is on point. STEM is the equalizer. With STEM, everybody can be trained to have that kind of mindset, and then we can unleash a wave of creativity and invention in the near future. Thank you very much, and I hope you got some value from that. Thank you.
Ooh, he just summarized and ended us on a high note. So I want to thank everyone who's participated. Thank you so much, my brother. In fact, like I said, our own connection is so special. I want to thank everyone. Yes. I want to thank everyone who's participated by chatting. Please, you can write down the what they call the action points that Ademola shared, or things that resonated with you. And then if you have questions, please share them before we draw to a close. Yeah. And I want to thank, once again, I'm going to keep saying thank you. I know this is rush hour. I know a lot of us have a lot of places to go. I've even seen that people are not really on, but I'm sure they are going to be sending me private messages via email or WhatsApp saying that they want the link to the video. So yes, it's on YouTube. Yes, it's archived. I will share the link later. I will go on my laptop and get the link and blast it on our email so that everybody can go back and watch. I want to thank all the speakers. Oh, thank you, Laurie. In fact, Laurie has been on for the past 3 hours. Laurie is another connection that was God made too. She said it's so exciting to be at this place where innovation and creativity is more important than the old ways of rote learning. Thank you for sharing this with such an impact. Yes, you see, she feels your that passion, that drive you have. She can sense it. She says thank you so much.
I was thinking that Americans would understand how I speak.
Oh, no, please. There's one language that's universal. You know one language that's universal? The language that's universal. Say it.
English, right?
No, the language that's universal is innovation. I don't care where you go in the world. Everybody understands that. As long as you're bringing something that has value to everybody, they get that. Even if you can't speak English or maybe you are speaking one language, are you creating something they can understand and use? That's all they care about. Yes, so trust me, that one is the central theme. So what I wanted to say is tomorrow we're going to be starting at the same time, and we're going to be running, and we have a great lineup tomorrow, just like today. In fact, guys, make sure you don't miss Laurie's session. There's so much that she shared from I don't even know how to start. The gems that she has, just come and tune in, especially if you're an educator or you own a school. Tune in, because there's so many ideas you're going to carry back for your children. It's very, very important that you understand that all these different things that we learn, how they interconnect, and we build on the children's interest, and then we carry it over to creating and infusing these skills we're talking about. So if there's one thing you're going to carry away from that, it's everything is connected, and we have to make our children apply the knowledge so that they can solve problems. Like you said, this has really exposed us more than ever. It's not just Nigerians, across the world, that there's going to be, in fact, what I had wanted to say is a lot of people are focusing on the negatives of this pandemic. I actually see so many positives. I'm like, whoa! My son was showing me earlier about and auntie also shared too on her presentation about the people who have benefited from this pandemic.
COVID, yes,
Netflix,
exactly.
yes,
Yeah.
Netflix,
Netflix, Zoom, yeah,
even
esports,
Amazon,
online sports
so
have
rich.
benefited.
If you thought he was rich before, my God, that guy is a colossus right now because everybody's ordering on Amazon. So
Yeah,
there's going to be such a plethora of opportunities from this.
exactly.
And that's first world and those nations. So you can imagine here.
And that's the Equalizer.
Yes, there are going to be so many opportunities here. So the only way you have to now quickly give our children these skills fast so that they can quickly start deploying and thinking. Like I remember the first time when we started talking about everybody needs to use the sanitizer, you need to wash your hands, I started thinking, all the times when I used to create my STEM boot camps, and I used to say, okay, guys, let's fashion out and pretend like we're creating a prototype. Let's glue things together. And I used to say, this is when I used to tell the children to do this. If only I could just quickly do a boot camp now. Say, okay, guys, let's quickly put these make-believe pieces together and pretend like we're making this. What would you use to make this? So I was pleasantly surprised when I saw, I think it was a week later, just when the lockdown began, that they say some students in Ghana and then also here in Nigeria have fashioned that foot pedal thing where you could press your foot down and water will come out.
Yeah.
And now it's everywhere. When we went to the State House the other day, when we were doing the commissioning for our devices with First Bank, that was what we had to use when we were going in. Before we were with Mr. Governor and First Bank's MD and all of them. We had to use that device. We had to put down our foot, wash our hands, put down the other foot again, then rub the sanitizer on both hands, and then all those machines to check your temperature. I said, see, this is exactly where somebody sat down and fashioned that instead of waiting for some sophisticated machine, something simple. But it's a tool and it's technology. That's what people think. They always think technology has to be so out there, so special. All it needs to be is a tool that solves a problem. We don't care how it's fashioned, how it's put together. It solves a problem. That's all.
Technology is know-how, and that critical link is missing from the model we think about technology. Technology is simply know-how. How A becomes B. That's technology.
That is it. Very good. So you have a lot of people who like you here. Wow. We have Celia Olo who is saying, great job, awesome. Oh, wow, a lot more people. Yes. Damilola is saying innovation is a new universal language. Yes, it is. All right, Mr. Victor Humala says, great one, Ademola. Great perspective regarding the paradigm shift in industrial needs of then versus now in the future. Great job. See, a lot of people are giving you kudos. When we share when we share the video link, believe me, I know there are going to be a lot more people who are going to say this is really good. So I want to thank everyone that has spoken today and the people who are going to speak tomorrow. Thank you so much for staying tuned in today, even if you're actually speaking tomorrow. I want us to continue to share this. In fact, I call this would I call it the gospel? Yes, it is. It's a gospel. This is a gospel that we're sharing.
This is the gospel of our time.
This is the gospel of our time, yes. It's the gospel we've been sharing, which is that we can solve our own problems. I don't see any reason why not. The know-how is here. We have the raw materials. In fact, that's one thing I know you speak a lot about. We have the raw material. In fact, let's talk about raw materials.
You're tempting me now. I want to.
Yeah, don't start. So raw materials now. Issue
Yeah,
is to
yeah.
stop thinking from a scarcity mindset. We have that scarcity mindset of thinking, it's not here. We
No,
can't
but
do it. We need
basically,
to
we have.
stop that.
I have to say this, right? We have a white savior mindset in Africa. We believe that we just see. Like I said, we've not been taught to think. We don't think, so we just sit down, wait for them to solve them, then we just follow what they do. That's the major. So it's not like we can't solve our problems. We can solve our problems. Africans can solve African problems, but we would not. We would rather just sit down, do nothing, and bring in the white saviors to come and bail us out. That's the truth. I'm not being
Well, it's
racist
not
or
going to
biased.
happen anymore.
That's just the
I know what
truth.
you're saying. It's not going to happen anymore. All over the
Okay.
world, people are looking for solutions. I just read yesterday, because there's an elite club, the top 10 of the billionaires in the world, top 10.
Yeah.
What's his name? Just joined them. We were just talking about India, you and I, before you started your presentation. This Indian billionaire, he has a brother. The brother is also very wealthy. Their father
Okay.
was
Are
the
you
one.
talking about geo platforms?
My son said he thinks he knows who I'm talking about too. I can't
Is it
remember his
geo
name right now.
platforms?
It must be him. He just joined the top 10 billionaires in the world. He just
It's
joined them
probably
2
geo
days.
platforms. His name is
Just joined them.
what's that his name?
It starts with an A.
I know
It
the
starts
person
with
talking
an
about.
A. You know what I'm
Yeah,
talking about? It starts with
Facebook
an A.
invested their company recently.
Oh my God. This guy has just joined that elite club from India.
Is
So
the one.
guys,
Yeah.
before you say, I'm in India, I'm in a developing nation. Oh, I'm not the right. No. He solved problems. He did something right. Because look now, he's in that elite club now. Yes, see, people are loving our comments because it's true. He's at elite club. I remember when I saw that online, I said, yes, things have changed. People are going to see that the order has changed. I believe that people here who are able to quickly start thinking of how to solve some serious problems here will join that club. I really believe with all my
Definitely,
heart they're going to join that
100%.
club. Yes,
Yeah,
they're
yeah,
going to join
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Because think about our population. One thing I was supposed to have mentioned in my thing I have forgotten
Presentation.
to mention was my presentation was our population. Our population is going to be
We have the
unprecedented.
population, we have the numbers, and we have the demographic on our side. Our population is young
Yes,
and is massive.
yes,
We have
yes,
1 billion people on the
yes.
African continent, and there will be
And
a
it's just
shift to creativity.
yes,
Right now, people
yes.
make money from real estate, oil, and gas. But guess what? It all goes out the drain now. So your intellectual property becomes how you make money now. So, I
It's
mean,
going to be that.
it's game
It's going
over.
to be explosive. Guys,
Yeah, I'm
just buckle
excited.
up. And yes, me too. I'm excited. Just
I'm
buckle up.
excited.
The reason why I'm also excited with you was just 2 days ago, I was watching the trilogy, Back to the Future. And I was
Oh,
watching
okay.
that, and I said I was a little bit younger than my son's age when I started watching that trilogy. And over the years, I've gone back and I watched it and watched it. And I watched it again with a fresh perspective, as with all that I've been doing, all that I am. And the second part of it was set in him going to the future, 2015. 2015 now is
Okay.
5 years ago for us.
Yeah,
And I laughed. I
yeah.
can imagine 2015 now is 5 years ago from us. And I said, my God, there are some things that they explored there that have come to pass. But there
Yeah,
are
a
some things
lot.
that haven't come to pass, which means they're still coming. But the one
Of
that my
course.
son and I spoke about that they never saw coming and they didn't capture there was this. Who
Of
would have
course,
told
yeah,
you
yeah.
that this will replace your computer? I mean, let's be honest. Do you know if I asked any of you to choose between this and your computer, do you know that 9 out of 10 of you would choose this?
I would also choose my
Please
mobile
tell me if
phone.
I'm wrong. 9 out of 10 of you. 9 out of 10 of you would choose this instead of that laptop. So who would have told us that will replace the laptop? So just to tell us that there are so many changes that are still in store for us. So yes, STEM is the
Definitely.
equalizer. Thank you very much,
Yes.
everyone. Let me see if there are any more questions. Okay, Damilola has another thing. Oh yes, we always prefer to consume, which is a lazy attitude. Don't worry, things are going to change. I have hope with these children. I know it's not easy, but that's the reason why we're investing in doing this work, because we have hope in them. Our hope, our beliefs, our dreams are with them. So we cannot give up because that's who we are tying everything we have towards. If you're talking about us, please forget it. But them at least. Them at least, let's have hope. All right, everyone. Thank you so much. Good night. Arrivederci, as they say in Italian. How do we say? Ekurole, well, that's good evening for us. Good night is what's good night? You should be teaching me now. Look at you.
Ekale is good night.
Okay. Ekale, okay,
Ó
Ekale.
dàbọ̀.
So thank you. Oh, that boy. Yeah, that's it. Oh, that boy.
Ó dàbọ̀.
Thank you, everyone. Yes. So
Yeah.
I'll be sending out the links now, okay? All right. Bye.
Bye.
Any more questions? No more questions. Okay. Bye.